Manufactured locally for the Carolinas. This is the Rob Brown Show. The fan of states.
And away we go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome in. Let's get it. It's time. The Tuesday morning edition of the Rob Brown Radio program is right here on the Fan Upstate. Good morning to you, and how do you do, Upstate, South Carolina? Hello, America. What is up, world? It is tremendous to be with you. Happy Tuesday. The week is underway. Your boy yesterday getting his ass kicked by a migraine, but we're back. We're in good shape. We are good to go and ready to rock and roll. I hope you all had a spectacular start to your week. I hope you are all ready to have a better second day. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to rock. We're going to roll. We're going to have a little fun on the radio broadcast. My name is Rob Brown, the Great one, Lonzo, out on a well-deserved vacation this week. So filling in all week long this week is my guy, Brandon, in the driver's seat. What's up, dog?
Let's go. Let's get it. It's Tuesday, everybody. Let's rock and roll.
It's going to be a great day. Looking forward to spending the next 4 hours of sports talk, entertainment excellence with you, my friends, my colleagues, my comrades, and compatriots. Let's have ourselves a time. Everybody having themselves a time, except that cat got dunked on by Anthony Edwards last night. Good
John Collins,
Lord.
what were you thinking, bro?
John, move. And I don't mean out from underneath the rim. I mean to like another country, dude. Like, all right. I've said for years, the dunk is cool, man. The dunk is fun. The dunk's never going to stop being cool. There are things in sports that are always going to be cool. A good bat flip in baseball is always going to be cool. A good strike from like 35 yards out on the pitch, always going to be cool. There are just things in sports that are always going to be cool. And a good, solid dunk is always going to be cool. You can make a three-pointer worth 10 points, and I would still rather have an Ant-Man Thunder dunk like we saw last night. And ordinarily, when a guy gets put on a poster like John Collins did last night, you're like, all right, it happens. We're going to laugh, we're going to have our fun, and then we're going to move on. And, in a couple of years, nobody's going to remember that one time that LeBron hammered down a two-handed tomahawk and put you on a poster. It happens. It happens to everybody in the league. Shaq got dunked on. Mike got dunked on. Everybody got dunked on. It happens to the best of them. But that dunk from Anthony Edwards last night, like, if John Collins doesn't retire today, I'll be stunned. That dude, I hope that dude last night applied for citizenship in another country. That's how hard he got dunked on last night.
Or SSI.
Golly.
Did you see Anthony Edwards dislocated his finger from dunking so hard?
Dude, when you dunk
that was
so hard
sick.
that you break, so he dislocated his finger.
Yeah.
And here's the best part. Dislocated his finger, ran to the locker room, had it popped into place, threw some tape on it, right back on the court very shortly after. This is where it gets wild. John Collins was ruled out for the rest of that game, being evaluated for a possible concussion. No.
He was embarrassed.
No. John Collins was getting evaluated last night, and he has been ruled out for 6 to 12 years, with the injury being pride. That's it. It was pride. That's all it was. And for the record, I get it. Because that was bad, dude. I was sitting there last night. Fiance went to bed earlier. I'm sitting in the bro cave. I got the 75-inch going. I got the multi-screen going. I'm watching NBA games. I'm getting ready to start filling out my bracket, which I'll tell you how you can be in the Rob Brown Show bracket competition coming up very shortly here. I'm going through all of this, and I see that dunk, and I'm like, dunk of the week? No. Dunk of the month? Nope. Dunk of the year? No. Dunk of the decade?
No.
That's a dunk of the 2020s.
Dunk of the century.
That's the dunk of the 2020s. It might be dunk of the 2000s. All of them. It might be December 31st, 2099. And my old ass is going to be in a retirement home, drooling all. Let's be real, I'm not making it that far. But the point is, I'll be sitting in a retirement home, drooling all over myself, listening to, whatever's considered oldies at that point. Having, I'll say my grandkid, I don't have kids, but having like some distant nephew standing there being forced by his parents to go talk to his old senile Uncle Rob, and I'll snap out of my senility just long enough to look at him and go, I remember that time that John Collins got dunked on and he ended up in a different galaxy. That was all time. You know how good that dunk was? That dunk was so good, I'm opening the show with it. That's how wild. If you haven't seen that dunk,
Please do.
Go to the social media platform of your choosing.
You can't miss it.
Go to Twitter, go to Instagram, go to Facebook. Hell, if you're not on social media, just go to Google and just Google. Here, look, Anthony Edwards has been in the league for how many years now? How many years has Ant-Man been in the league at this point? Okay. Anthony Edwards has been in the league a number of years at this point. And if you go right now, just go to Google, open up Google and type in Anthony Edwards.
4 years.
4 years.
Yep.
4 years. 82 games, 4 years. Granted, he's not played in all of them. But that's like mathematically speaking, and I'm a real bad math boy. That's why all my jobs are words jobs. But that's a lot of games. And if you go to Google right now, and if you type in Anthony Edwards dunk, this is a dude who's been in the league 4 years. This is a dude who has been playing NBA ball. And oh, by the way, it's not like he just started playing basketball at the NBA level. He played ball before that too. He played ball at Georgia for a couple of years. If you go right now and Google Anthony Edwards dunk, one thing and one thing alone is going to come up. Only one thing is going to come up. And the only thing that's going to show up is what he did last night, because it was bat crazy. Unbelievable. It was so good. I immediately, as soon as the mic opened, I was like, listen, I set up the show every day. I got a Google Doc over here on the laptop in front of me. And on that Google Doc, last thing I do before I go to bed is I go into that Google Doc and I bullet point all the stories. Now, we don't get to all of them, but, I throw legitimately, even in any given day, 25, 30, 35 different stories on there just to have them. You never know. And I put them all on there. And then when I get here in the morning, on that Google Doc is what we in the business call a rundown. It's a segment by segment, bullet pointed out storyline for the show. And again, I don't always follow it, okay? A lot of what we talk about on the show, as I've told you guys before, is dictated by you. If I bring up a story and you guys start texting or you guys start calling or tweeting or Xing or posting or whatever it is that you are paying attention to, if you guys start reacting to something we're talking about, well, hang on that, right? Give the people what they want. Play the hits. It's what we do. It's radio. And so I got here this morning and I ran through the 25, 30 stories I put together. Yeah. I went through and I found all the stuff I wanted to get to. And then I came in this morning and I put one by one down. 6 o'clock, 6:20, 6:40, 7 o'clock, 7:20, 7:40, water cooler cheat sheet, this, that, and the other. I put all this stuff in there. And then we popped open the mic. And the only segment that I don't fill out every day, is the opening segment of the show. The most, if you ask radio people, the most important segment of the show, the opening segment. It sets the mood. It sets the tone, not just for you, but for us too. If you started off hype, you're going to stay hype. If you started off angry, you're going to stay angry. If you started off goofing off, you're going to goof off. It's just kind of how it goes. And ordinarily, I don't put anything, unless there's just like obvious, like whopping news from the day before you can't avoid. Monday, we started the show with the new contract between ESPN and the in college football playoff committee because it's the biggest story in college football. I got here this morning, the mic cracked, and I'm like, I haven't decided. Baseball starts tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
The Dodgers playing tomorrow night. Everybody excited to see what the new look Dodgers look like. Shohei in the DH spot. That's big time. The NBA playoff race, real interesting across the East and the West right now. We got the NHL. Alex Ovechkin last night just hit another 20-goal season. Tied now for second most consecutive all time. He is less than 52 goals away from tying Wayne Gretzky.
Ooh.
I mean, there's NHL stories. We got to talk NASCAR because there was some very interesting conversations going on about the race at Bristol. Obviously, we've got play-in games coming up. And then March Madness, just days away. There's a million things that we need to talk about on the radio broadcast today. And there was not a damn thing on planet Earth I was getting to faster than Anthony Edwards. Not the game, not the score. Quick question, pop quiz. Who won that game last night? None of you know, and that's okay. All right, well, some of you know because you're NBA fans. Timberwolves win 114-104 over Utah. But the point is, not the game, not Anthony Edwards, who, by the way, is having to shoulder this team because Karl Anthony Towns is down until at least the first round of the playoffs, if not longer, for a team that was in the 1 seed 2 weeks ago. These are all great topics. These are all things we should talk about. These are all things we need to talk about. But what are we talking about? Anthony Edwards one dunk because it was that catastrophic. John Collins, I think, is legally obligated to retire at this point. I'm relatively sure that John Collins could sue Anthony Edwards for emotional distress and win that game, win that match, win that court case. It's insane. Insane. Joey just texted, said, I just watched the dunk. I'm fairly certain in my 43 years of watching sports, that was the most disrespectful dunk of all time. Bro, you know what that felt like to me? That dunk felt like John Collins slept with Anthony Edwards' mom. That's what that dunk felt like. That dunk felt like they were a couple of years of frustration.
Did you see that's also the second time he's done it in the last 2 weeks? The last time he did it, he got a head contusion because he hit his head on the goal after he dunked. So it's not like this is a freak kind of dunk. This is legit. He is flying high.
Bro, I don't even know how to. If you haven't seen it yet, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain it. It was just nasty. It was just nasty. It was talk about it in the first segment of my wildly popular and successful radio show. That's how big that dunk was. All right. We got a day lined up, kids. Going to talk a lot of bracket today. Spent yesterday afternoon when we got off the air, went to the house, fought off the migraine. But you know what I did? I fought through it for you, for the people, for the Rob Brown Show Armada, for the Rob Bots on the stream, and put together a little bracket preview. No, I'm killing myself here, all right? Because the Rob Brown Show bracket challenge is up and running right now. If you would like in on our bracket challenge, shoot me an email, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. rob.brown@thefanupstate.com and enter the bracket challenge. If you enter the bracket challenge and you win the bracket challenge by scoring more points than me, than Brandon, than Lonzo, than the rest of the Armada, you will win the opportunity to come on the show and host a segment, one segment, with me here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. So, if you would like the opportunity to live out your sports radio hosting dreams, if you think that you can do it better than me, now's your chance. Email me, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. Request a link to this year's bracket competition challenge. I will reply in an email with a link to go ahead and get yourself entered into the Rob Brown Show bracket challenge. The outright winner of the bracket challenge will win the opportunity to host a segment with me on this show sometime between now and next March, or whenever I get my ass fired, whichever comes first. We'll find out. Rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. Get you in on the Rob Brown Show bracket competition. All right. We got to run to a break. When we come back here in just a moment from right now. You've heard a lot about it. I want to take a look at it. I want to break it down. A lot has been made about the Chicago Bears decision to move on from Justin Fields, send him to Pittsburgh, and pretty much lock in that they are drafting a quarterback with the #1 overall pick. A lot was made about the amount that the Panthers invested last year in jumping up to go get Bryce Young, a price they are still paying because otherwise they'd have the #1 overall pick this year. And they could draft Caleb Williams for the exact same price. I want to talk about that through the perspective of the 2021 NFL draft class, a draft class that's had a couple of years to get involved. Was it an abject failure? We'll break it down when we come back. Brandon in for the great Lonzo. I'm Rob Brown. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is the Fan Upstate.
My buddy Chase is here. He's on
See it. Hell up, but when you're not, or take yours out just so we don't get that cross.
yeah. It's this board. They said this board is pretty dated too.
It is, and they're working on replacing it. We should have a new one in the next couple of months. Well,
hopefully
have a new one.
Well, that's why. I mean, if you notice, I've moved this like 4 times already.
That's all you can do.
It's so weird. Do you want me to send you the clip of Anthony Edwards dunk? You can play it.
Nah.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Because it's just a bunch of dudes going, oh, which is the right reaction.
Oh, God, yeah.
That was wild.
That was sick, man. I mean, that's embarrassing.
I was thinking about it last night, like after I watched it.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out if I could come up with a dunk off the top of my head that felt as gnarly as that one looked. And I couldn't. I could not come up with one that looked as wild as that dunk did. It was next level.
It's like he really was. He was livid about something the way he's like, boom.
Yeah. It was like he was mad. Like it was wild.
Yep.
I mean, I get it. Like that's just one of those dunks that like you just do.
Yeah.
But freaking hell, man. F&A Cotton.
Mm-hmm. Like beat down. Yeah, Chase, you gotta watch this dunk, dude. It is sick.
Just go to YouTube and
type in Anthony Edwards, John Collins dunk. It is nasty.
Type in Anthony Edwards dunk. It's the only
It
thing
is
that comes
nasty.
up. It is the most vicious, disrespectful dunk I have ever seen. Shaq had dunks. Like Shaq used to do that dunk
and he'd
where he
pull.
would and he would swing his junk in your face, and that was less disrespectful.
Do you remember when Shaq dunked and he shoved that one dude and the guy threw the ball at him? That's John Collins getting dunked on is worse than that. That's how vicious it was.
I've never seen one like that before. It was.
There is, let's see. Oh, mouse, where you at? There it is. Next break, I have to add in 2 60s because you have 1, 2 minutes. That's it.
Okay. That's a good call.
I saw that and I was like, oh boy, here we go.
Breaks are so short right now. I mean, I do, but.
Cooking. PF Chang's wanted to explore new possibilities for their website.
Did you know that there's only 15 games left NHL regular season? Isn't that nuts? I hope my Lightning do good. Boy, do I hope. What are your thoughts on Snell's deal with the Giants? Overpaid?
Got the player option. Scott Boras is a maniac.
I think it's overpay. Did you hear there was opt-out after this year?
My man's, what do you mean overpay? He's a Cy Young winner.
Yeah, but he led the league in walks.
He's also a Cy Young winner with a sub-2 ERA.
Yeah.
Like, there ain't a lot of those. There's none of those this year that was available.
They don't know. What's up with Montgomery not getting signed yet?
He is, my bet, probably asking for $1 billion because he probably needs rehab for the amount of stress on his back that he carried that team to a World Series win last year.
15 seconds. And we're back.
I'm not the first to point this out. I'm not going to be the last to point it out, but I did want to take a look at it. Chicago trades Justin Fields over to the Pittsburgh Steelers alongside Russell Wilson from the Denver Broncos. And it effectively sets up a situation where we all now know who officially and finally the first pick of this draft is going to be. It is absolutely and unequivocally and without question going to be, whether it should be or not, Caleb Williams out of USC. The Bears are going all in for the quarterback spot, and it's understandable. The NFL is a quarterback-driven league. Now, I've presented in the past some ways to kind of solve that, but none of them are going to happen because they would all cost the league money, and they're not going to do that. So let us take a look at just kind of how we arrived at this spot, how we got to this situation, and what it really looks like. In 2021, most of the 5 quarterbacks taken in the top 15 selections have been misses. Last year, the 3rd overall pick, 49ers quarterback Trey Lance, was jettisoned for the Cowboys for a 4th-round pick. Last week, the 15th selection, Mac Jones of the Patriots, was dumped to the Jags for a 6th-round pick. Now, Justin Fields has been sent to the Steelers for a 6th-round pick. Just so we're all on the same page, let me ask a question that all of you at home can participate in a take-home edition of the Rob Brown radio program. If I offered you right now, in a quarterback-driven league, we all know it is, any of those names, or Micah Parsons, which one are you taking to build your team around?
Parsons.
Yeah, that is correct. That is the only acceptable answer. You are taking Micah Parsons because he's very, very good at the footballing, and we know that. All of those guys we just mentioned, all of them were picked ahead of Micah Parsons in that draft, just so we're clear. The Jets might have to give a 6th-round pick to get somebody to take Zach Wilson because he's on a $5.4 million guaranteed compensation package. He was the 2nd overall pick that year. Of that entire draft class, or at least of the top 5 guys that were taken, there is one guy starting. Of the 19 quarterbacks that were taken in that draft class, there are 2 guys starting. The guy that was taken first, Trevor Lawrence, and the guy that was taken last, Brock Purdy. Those are the only 2 guys that are taken. And I don't think any of us, listen, I have said time and time again, and I'll say time again, I think Brock Purdy is a fine quarterback. I also think that Brock Purdy is in a pretty beneficial spot because the 49ers had, we'll see what happens with Brandon Ayuk, had the best conglomeration of skill position talent across the entire National Football last year. Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. My fat, lazy behind could have gone out there and averaged $150 a game with those guys as my pass-catching weapons. But other people haven't been successful. Brock Purdy was. So I can't question it. The point here is there were 19 quarterbacks selected, 5 of them in the first round. Of all 19, 2 were starting in the top 5. Only 1 is starting. And oh, by the way, 1 is starting from the top 5, Trevor Lawrence. And as much as I am rooting for him, and as much as I do think Trevor Lawrence can be that guy, this is being considered a prove-it year for Trevor Lawrence by, like, most NFL dudes. Like most people are saying, if TL16 doesn't put it together this year, TL16 ain't going to put it together. He's got to get it done this year. Now, there's a lot I can say about the Jags. As I have pointed out, I honestly felt as if last year was the certified, bona fide rookie year for Trevor Lawrence. I felt like last year was his rookie year because I don't hold the Urban Meyer year against him because I've said this before and I'll say it again.
Everybody says what you're about to say.
Urban Meyer sucks at everything. All right? He sucks at everything. I don't like him. And he is, I think now we can all agree, a failure as an NFL head coach. Like, obviously. So last year to me, Trev's rookie year. To me, this is his sophomore year. For most NFL quarterbacks, your sophomore year is your prove-it year. Your sophomore year, it's not saying you got to go out there and win the Super Bowl or go out there and have a playoff run. It's just you got to show up and do something, right? You got to show up and do something. And I think that this is the year for Trevor Lawrence that he's got to show up and do something and do a thing. But to look at this from the 30,000-foot view, quarterbacks are far from a guarantee. Here's the other, quarterbacks are far from a guarantee. There's no guarantee you're a first rounder or your ninth round. No, there's no ninth round, but you get it. Seventh rounder.
Used to be.
First or last guy. There's no guarantee that you're going to hit on your quarterback. It's never a guarantee, never has been. What we do know is that if you're going to go in for a guy, I think we're hitting a point now, and I'll be interested to see, even with this being a quarterback league, I will be interested to see what the future holds as far as will teams be willing to pay stupid amounts of money for first-round generational quarterbacks at this point. Will teams look at where, I don't know, let's pick a team at random. The Carolina Panthers, maybe, who went in. If you have looked at what the trade haul has turned into after Chicago used last year's picks, have for this year's picks, if you actually look at the trade haul that this is turned into for Chicago, that they got from Carolina, it's pretty ridiculous. It's pretty ridiculous. And not that that converts into this is what Carolina would have had, but it's pretty close. And if that is the case, I almost have to wonder if we are getting to a point now because, and we can't know it this year, because Chicago apparently wanted like a kingdom's ransom for anybody to get the number 1 overall pick. Like basically, they wanted somebody to make them an offer that, pardon the expression, they just could not refuse. It would have been
like the Ricky Williams.
Yeah, it'd have been a Mike Dick or Ricky Williams offer. It'd have been an offer that had they refused it, it would have been malpractice to reject it. So knowing that that is what they wanted and they did not get it, I kind of wonder, are the Carolina Panthers possibly, that's like a capital P possibly, are the Panthers possibly going to be the last NFL team that truly goes that all in to get a guy away at number 1? We're always going to have QBs drafted at number 1 overall. We're always going to have guys drafted at that spot until the league reverses course and stops, it won't, but stops being a league where like enlisted priority is quarterback 1 through 7 and then everybody else after that. Until the league stops being a quarterback-driven league, which, again, it never will, you're always going to have quarterbacks that are drafted number 1 overall. But I got to think now, looking back at that 2021 class, I mean, again, we're far from settled for 2022. C.J. Stroud showed up and won a division in year 1. I could absolutely make the argument that C.J. Stroud had a better setup. Carolina fans about to get mad at me. Don't care. C.J. Stroud had a better setup than Bryce Young did. All right? Just did. Better team. They drafted to him. I think they had a better head coach. I think they have better leadership and management. And
that
Houston
says a lot, too.
Yeah, which is real bad for Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
I think that the Houston Texans did a better job of setting up around C.J. Stroud. Now, that is partially still going to hang on the head of the quarterback. But I think that the 2023 draft class saw C.J. Stroud handed the best setup, right?
Let me ask you this. Out of those two, do you see any of them being Ryan Leaf 2.0?
We're not there yet. We're a year in. This is why I have said to so many Panthers fans, take a deep breath. Frankie says
Thank God
relax.
you didn't do the Alex Rogers, RELEX, whatever, relax.
Frankie says relax. It is a year in, and a year in which you had, think about it, technically 4 head coaches in a 12-month span, because you went Rule to Wilkes to Reich to Tabor, and now we're about to go to Canales, which would be the 5th head coach in 15 months. All right. So, and I know Bryce wasn't there for Rule and Wilkes, but the program was, and the program was still trying to right itself after that. It was real bad. So the question I'm at now, as we look at the 2020, let's look at the 2022 draft class, right? 2022 draft class, 9 quarterbacks that were selected. Malik Willis, sorry, couldn't beat out Ryan Tannehill. All right, that was a questionable bit. Kenny Pickett was a Steeler. Was a Steeler. Now he's an Eagle, right? Was that a failure? It's hard to say no. Sam Howell was with the Commanders. Now he's not. He's out. He's gone. Desmond Ridder. I'm gonna tell you right now. I listen. I hate an Atlanta Falcon. I'm sitting across from him.
You know that.
I hate a Falcon. I hate a Falcon. Y'all win the division last year if you have average quarterback. If Derek Carr's in Atlanta last year instead of New Orleans, y'all win the NFC South hands down. Not a question. Statement. All right? This year, I've already said it. Kirk Cousins is winning the Atlanta Falcons, the NFC South. I have, just so we're clear, just so you don't think that I'm entirely full of. I have already put a bet down on the Falcons to win the NFC South.
What's the record going to be? I say 12 wins.
No, you're not getting to 12. You'll win it. You'll win it with 10, maybe 11. You
All right,
10
Chase,
or
you hear
11?
that? He said that.
10 or 11. Now, I will say this. Chase Young's a New Orleans Saint.
That ain't
Kirk
nothing.
Cousins ain't running around from Chase Young. You
Ain't
ain't.
nothing.
Hey, you like that? Ain't getting away from Chase Young. My dude's still like 25 years old. He's still a kid.
Yeah, but
I
he's
forget-
bounced around so much, though.
because he's worth a lot of money. And by the way, the fact that he's on a 1-year deal, this is a bet on yourself contract for Chase Young. Dude's going to have a monster season. And while I will fist fight Dennis Allen in a Kohl's parking lot tonight, if I get the chance, the dude's a defensive coordinator. He is a good defensive coordinator. Defense hasn't been the problem in New Orleans. All right. So anyway, point is, if y'all had Kirk Cousins last year, you won the division. Desmond Ridder, abject failure. Matt Corral, Panthers, abject failure. Chris Aladukin went to the Steelers, abject failure. Bailey Zappi went to the Patriots. Yeah, abject failure, sure. Brock Purdy, 49ers, only success arguably on this list. Skylar Thompson went to the Dolphins, had some opportunities to step in and make some noise. Never really was that guy. 2021 NFL draft. We talked about this. Trevor Lawrence, only guy still a starter. Zach Wilson, failure. Trey Lance, failure. Justin Fields,
I'm going to say failure.
so far.
10 wins, that's it. That ain't
so
nothing.
far. But I would also say, much like Bryce Young in Carolina, Matt Eberflus is a joke.
He's a toilet bowl coach is what he is.
Ryan Bowles has been questionable as a GM at best. That's a poorly run franchise. Now, Justin Fields gets the opportunity to go to Pittsburgh, to play for a coach who's never had a losing season, to tutor under a guy who plays a very similar style of football to him, who's been in the league for like 60 years in Russell Wilson. I'm not saying Justin Fields is a failure. I'll say he's a failure so far, but he's early in his 3 years in, and 3 years in a bleep hole like Chicago. Mac Jones, happy to say failure. Kyle Trask, quick, somebody tell me where he plays. Kellen Mond out of A&M, failure. Davis Mills, Houston, got replaced in his, second, third year. So here's all I'm driving at, and then we'll take a break. All I'm driving at, and then we'll take a break, is this. I think we have probably seen the end, or at least unless there is a dude. Like, I don't feel this way about Caleb Williams. I've already said, I've gone on the record, I'll say it one more time. Jaden Daniels is going to have a better career than Caleb Williams. Mark it down, write it down, attribute it to me. If I got to come back in 3 years and eat the crow, I'll do it. I prefer it medium rare. Jaden Daniels is going to have a better career than Caleb Williams. I believe that. That's how good that kid is. The only thing that will ruin that is Jaden Daniels getting injured because he runs like a maniac. He thinks he's Jerome Bettis. But he'll have a better year. I think we have hit a tipping point as far as NFL teams willing to break the bank to jump up and go spend that much money on a guy that they've got to skyrocket up the draft board to go get, right? I think Carolina is going to be the last team we see do that for a while. Because a lot of these guys we've mentioned, Trevor Lawrence, he's a generational talent. I'm not saying he's not, but he hasn't really hit the marks we're looking for in Jacksonville. Again, I blame part of it on Urban Meyer. You brought in Doug Peterson. There's a reason Philly got rid of Doug Peterson despite him having a ring, all right? Everybody else, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, all these other guys we just mentioned, all these guys we just talked about, we are looking at a list of guys that have been hit with, and part of it is this. Listen, be very clear about this. Part of this is the hype machine. Part of this is the NFL generating drama around these guys. They want us to watch the draft. It's a huge, huge revenue boost for them. So they are going to try to convince you that whoever is the big name is every year generational. Guys, it's not generational if there's one every year. That's annual. Trevor Lawrence is an annual talent. Caleb Williams is an annual talent. We say generational every year about a guy. And I think it's become obvious as of late that
that's the magic word, generational. That's all it is, though.
There are generational guys every year, which makes them, by definition, not generational.
Annual.
It's an annual talent. And so if we're going to play this game every damn year, at some point, NFL teams got to stop falling for it. You got to stop falling for it. I'm not saying there's not going to be a generational talent every now and then. Let me make abundantly clear. I don't know if C.J. Stroud is generational talent. He's real good. I don't know if he's generational, right? Who's the last rookie quarterback that had in his rookie season a year that you looked at and went, damn, that's him. That's that guy. Who? Who is it? Because if I really try to sit down and figure that out, I got to be crystal clear with you. It's kind of hard to come up with a list of guys that I'd be willing to pay what Carolina paid to go get Bryce Young. Then maybe Bryce Young does turn out to be a generational talent. Again, I think it's too early in the process. But I think if I'm an NFL GM at this point, I think I've probably hit the point where I'm going, there's not a guy out there. There's not a guy out there that's worth giving up the franchise like the Panthers did. I think at this point forward, if you want the number 1 overall pick, you better suck, because very, 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 very few and far between are the Patrick Mahomes that are very clearly the guy as a rook. There's just not those guys. Patrick Mahomes is probably one of a very short list of quarterbacks over the past 2 decades that I would say was worth the price that Carolina gave up for Bryce Young. And Bryce Young maybe down the line is a Patrick Mahomes. Maybe the situation was so toxic in Carolina that in 2 or 3 years under Dave Canellis, he gets it fixed, and we all look back and we're like, damn, it really was bad. And look at BY now. He's a baby Drew Brees. Maybe. I hope so. But realistically speaking, that's not statistically going to be the case. I think if you're an NFL GM at this point, you got to be done backing the Brinks truck up to whoever's got the number 1 overall pick to get a guy, because realistically, there just ain't that many guys. There's just not. Statistically, there's not that many guys. All right, let's run to a break. When we come back here in just a minute, let's take a look at the actually, you know what? We do have some big recruiting news for Clemson. You guys know I'm not I cover recruiting because it's the lifeblood of college football. I cover recruiting because it's very important to our college football teams. I don't care that much, if I'm going to be honest with you. I don't care. But there is a bit of recruiting news for Clemson, because you just stole a dude, and where you stole him from is pretty impressive. Talk about that when we come back. Rob, Brandon in for the Great Malonzo. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate.
I gotta run to the restroom real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. All right, guys, we're going to step away for 45 seconds. Please don't go anywhere. We shall return ever so briefly. All right, y'all. Thanks for getting in there. We're back.
One lane blocked off, and at this time, really not much of a backup there at all. So it actually looks pretty good. Great looking rush hour. For the News Talk 98.9 WRD Traffic Center, I'm Lloyd Houston on the Fan, Upstate.
From the Ingalls Market Studio, the Fan.
Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville. 97.1 FM Spartanburg.
Always live from the Free Odyssey app. CBS on Radio.
Savings. Now that's speaking the Lowe's language. And with my Lowe's rewards, your savings just keep coming.
Save money with member-only.
Take a 10-11 win season as long as it means playoffs. It does. I've said this a couple of times. I don't know that means that like Kirk Cousins is the dude that takes you all the way, but he'll get you in the playoffs for sure. I don't have any doubt about that. You will win the NFC South this year. I don't think Tampa's not going to get better. They're the same team. New Orleans is not getting better, with the exception of Chase Young. They signed a couple of receivers, but like it's still Dennis Allen. And I genuinely, absolutely do believe that the Panthers and Bryce Young are probably a couple of years away from hitting whatever stride they're going to hit with him. So it's Atlanta's division. The only way you don't win the playoffs this year is if Atlanta just chokes out.
All right, let's get it. They were talking on, what was it, the other day about Malik Willis draft was one of the worst drafts that have ever been. They said that year. What was it? What was the year Desmond Ridder was drafted? 23 or 2?
22.
So it was the worst one they've ever had. I can agree.
All I'm saying is there's a link to that. And that's the only truly good season that Shane Beamer's had out of 3. If you can't get me to at least 6-6 next year, and if you can't have a record above 500 at the end of next season, I'm not making a change.
Number 1 for real afternoon sports talk.
Offsides with Mark Ryan.
3 to 7 on the
Upstate.
I lock up my old
All right, 30 seconds.
Free dry spray to keep that 24/7 lasting freshness safe for myself. Fresh coconuts, palm trees, and wind. It's like catching waves in Fiji. Actually, I just talked myself into a refreshing spritz of Fiji. My Old Spice is missing! No!
Four-star defensive back recruit Tay Harris was signed on to go play football for the Georgia Bulldogs. You may have heard of the Georgia Bulldogs. They've been pretty good as of late. Missed the college football playoffs last year. A lot of people feel like they should have been in the college football playoffs last year, as their only L was in the SEC championship game to the University of Alabama, a team that did make the college football playoffs. But they were national champions the year before that. And the year before that, they're very good at football. And so when you have a guy that is ranked the number 193 ranked recruit in college football recruiting, when you have a guy that is the 15th ranked safety in this upcoming senior class per 24/7 Sports, when he is ranked as the number 26 overall player in a very healthy state of Georgia, it is unsurprising that he would commit to the University of Georgia. But the Cedartown High School standout player, who, by the way, is graduating from the same high school as Georgia football legend Nick Chubb, he committed to Georgia back in 2023 to the shock of exactly no one. However, apparently, he is looking at changing his commitment over to Clemson. Four-star defensive back recruit Trey Harris decommitted from the Georgia Bulldogs on January 21st, 2024. His recruiting was up in the air, and now he is committed to the Clemson Tigers. An explosive athlete with good lower body strength on tape, primarily plays cornerback, though he is projected to be a safety at the college level, a solid open field tackler, a guy who reads screen passes well, is not afraid to run through a block, maybe not the best coverage guy in the game, but a heavy hitter. When you can step in and you can steal Georgia guys away from Georgia, you put yourself in a pretty good spot. you put yourself in a pretty good spot to do something special. And that's where you're at. I take umbrage to the folks that have buried Clemson. I take umbrage to the folks that have said this dynastic run is over. I take umbrage to the folks that have said Dabo don't got it no more. Look, he's going to do it his way. Does it make his life tougher? Does it make his job tougher? Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I absolutely do think in not fully embracing the new age of college football, yeah, it makes your job tougher, but I'm going to give him credit because he is doing what I have said Nick Saban doesn't do, what a lot of college coaches haven't done. That is to say, they're going to go do it their way still. Nick Saban left. I don't judge him for retiring. I don't judge him for walking. I understand. The job's tough. And it got tougher. But you either want to live through it, survive through it, profit through it, succeed through it, or you don't. Nick didn't want to. And that's okay. That's okay. So the fact that Dabo is able to go take a guy committed to Georgia in June of last year, decommitted in January, and win that guy over says something's going right. By the way, speaking of SEC coaches, while I'm at it, I know Dabo's not an SEC coach. I was talking about Nick Saban, so I should say former SEC coaches. Speaking of Nick Saban, that's how I'll segue this because I'm a professional. Kalen DeBoer is making like a lot of money. 8-year contract that starts at $10 million per year, goes up $250,000 per year every year. After that, it is going to pay him an annual salary of about $10.5 million, the fourth highest average salary in all of college football. Dabo Swinney is 1, Kirby Smart is 2, Lincoln Riley is 3, and now Kalen DeBoer is 4, just ahead of Mike Norvell. Oh, who's the other one off the top of my head? Steve Sarkisian at Texas. That's it. I knew I could do it. I believed in me the whole time. 4th highest paid coach of all time before he coaches the first game at Alabama.
And that's still up in the air too because of the style of offense he runs. Is he going to last more than 2 years at Alabama?
Don't know. I mean, he's succeeded everywhere else he's been. However, everywhere else he's been ain't the SEC. Now, I will point out last year he succeeded in the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 was real good last year. Swan song season for Pac-12 football was real good, and he was the best of the bunch in Pac-12 football last year. So I think there is something to be said for that. But man, that feels like a lot of money for a dude who has not coached his first SEC game. Over $10 million a year annual salary, getting paid more than Mike Norvell coming off a 13-0 season. By the way, that is post Mike Norvell's contract extension. That is more than Mike Norvell is making coming off an extension. Oh, and by the way, while we're at it, and I do want to talk about this a little bit more in depth later in the show, the University of Florida has just upped the recruiting budget for Billy Napier's football program by 45% this season. Why am I bringing this up? Why am I bringing Kalen DeBoer's contract up? I'm bringing it up because SEC teams are already hitting the afterburner on money that they are spending. This is why I have said the new profit sharing deal signed in that television rights deal between ESPN and the College Football Playoff Committee that is going to send a ton more money to the SEC and the Big Ten than to the ACC and the Big 12, and like a ton more money than it does to Notre Dame and the Group of Five. It's going to create a chasm in college football. There's always been a chasm in college football, but that's always between the Power Five and the Group of Five and the Group of Five and everybody else. But now there's going to be 3 distinct levels of college football, and you can see that already within 3 days of this deal being signed, Florida is upping their recruiting budget by 45%. And Alabama just signed Kalen DeBoer, a guy who has not coached a single SEC game, to the 4th highest contract coach's salary in all of college football. The divide is real, and it is growing. It's going to grow, and there's your evidence, my dudes.
Do you think we will ever see an $80 million a year kind of coach in college football?
80?
Yeah, like,
No.
I mean, do you think we'll ever get to the
Kalen
100
DeBoer's-
mark?
Kalen DeBoer's at 10.
Do you think we'll get to the $100 million mark?
I think you'll see $100 million contracts, but they'll be like 10-year deals. Like, I don't think you're ever going to see a guy making that much money in an individual season. Kalen DeBoer is making over $10 million. There are the 3 coaches ahead of Kalen DeBoer are all making at the minimum $11 million annually. I think you will start seeing $100 million contracts that are, instead of 10 years old, maybe they're like 8-year contracts for $100+ million.
I could see that.
There is still, and again, I'm not an expert. There's a lot of coaches' salaries where the money is not just coming from the athletic department budget. It's coming from boosters and private donors, et cetera, et cetera. But again, there are, 3, now 2 coaches active with a natty, Dabo and Kirby, because Nick's out of the game. There's 2 coaches with the national championship that are coaching right now. 2 total in all of college football. 2. So yes, it is scarce. The scarcity is real. And because of that, Jimbo Fisher was a 3rd. He's out right now. He'll be back. Somebody's going to hire him. But Jimbo Fisher was 1. Nick Saban was 1. Both of those guys are out of the game. It's Dabo and it's Kirby. And if it's Dabo and it's Kirby, yeah, you're going to make a run. So now all of a sudden, guys who have made a championship game are just as valuable. Guys who have made a playoff berth, Steve Sarkisian, just as valuable. And we'll see how it plays out. We'll see how this plays out. It's time for a sports flash. Another pitcher off the market. Last year's NL Cy Young winner Blake Snell has signed a 2-year, $62 million deal with the San Francisco Giants that includes a 2nd-year player option. Snell joins a list of free agents for the NL West contender that include Korea's Jung-Ho Lee, former Atlanta Brave Jorge Soler, former Cy Young winner Robbie Ray, and All-Star Matt Chapman. It may not be easy to replace Nick Saban, but it certainly pays well. New Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer has signed an 8-year contract with the university that pays him $10 million in the first year and escalates $250,000 every year after that. DeBoer's contract is 90% guaranteed, and a firing without cause would trigger a payout. And Alex Ovechkin needs just 52 goals to surpass Wayne Gretzky for the most scored in NHL history. He picked up the pace after scoring 3 in his last 2. The most recent pushed him past the 20-goal mark this season, tying him for 2nd most consecutive 20-goal seasons with 19. Back after this with another hour of the Rob Brown Show. All right, guys, we're going to step away for just a minute, take a top of the hour break. Y'all stay right there. We'll be right back. right, y'all. We are back. Thanks for hanging in there.
You need to call now or you may forever lose your right to a settlement between $100,000 and $550,000. For your free evaluation, call 800-885-2277. 800-885-2277. 800-885-2277.
The all-new 2024 Upstate Craft Beer Passport is here for just $40 at UpstateCraftBeerPassport.com. 20 breweries and 2
on, Mouse.
stops with free tastings and tours. Breweries include Thomas Creek Brewing and Voodoo Brewing Company. Visit UpstateBeerPassport.com.
Let's Save Lives. An introduction to suicide prevention in the Black community is an education program designed by and for the Black community, fostering connection and communication around mental health. To learn how you can encourage help seeking and play a role in saving lives in your community, reach out to your local chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention at afsp.org/chapters. AFSP is an I'm Listening partner. Learn more at imlistening.org and on the Odyssey app.
Tax Talk with Straight Talk.
This tax season you get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data and a Samsung Galaxy A14 included when you buy an extended silver unlimited plan. So you can give your janky phone to your kid.
Switch to Straight Talk. Find us at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. For network management practices, visit StraightTalk.com. Device offer ends 4/14/24. Taxes and fees apply.
At Target, our prices for Easter are so low, you can put all your eggs in one basket. Surprise them with Target exclusive favorite day treats, like our unique chocolate bunny and a cute basket, all from just $4. Add in some fun with a 6-pack of bubbles, 50-piece sidewalk chalk, and super soft stuffed animals, all from $5. And get great family picks with new Easter looks. It's easy with women's and girls' dresses for only $20 and under. Low prices on everything for Easter? Now that's Target.
All right, here we go.
The Fan.
Upstate.
WYRD Greenville.
WORD Spartanburg.
WFBC HD3 Greenville.
W249CL Greenville.
W246CB Spartanburg. CBS Sports Radio. Always live on the Free Odyssey app.
Man, check this out.
You're on official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents being real. Yeah.
Unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Lockdown.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Get Rob.
Only on
The Fan.
And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Our numero dos, bringing the thunder like Anthony Edwards. It is the Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate. I am Rob Brown. Wonderful to be with you. The great man Lonzo out for the week, taking a well-deserved vacation. My guy Brandon filling in on the ones and twos today. Having a great morning so far. Hope that you will join us. 844-326-3663. That is the number to the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. 844-FAN-FONE. You can also text us at 71307. 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the air. If you would like to tweet us, now's a wonderful time to do it at The Rob Brown Show. At The Rob Brown Show, you can also tweet everybody at the station at The Fan Upstate, at The Fan Upstate on Twitter. If you want to get at us in that direction, you are welcome to do so as well. You can also email me, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. If you would like to be a part of the Rob Brown Show 2024 Bracket Challenge, you're going to want to drop me a line, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com, and just very simply ask, nay, demand an invitation. I will reply to that email with an email of my own that has an invitation link for you. It is an invite link only bracket challenge. So if you would like in on the Rob Brown Show 2024 bracket challenge, shoot me an email to rob.brown@thefanupstate.com, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. Simply ask for an invitation to our 2024 bracket challenge, and I will make sure that you receive them. The winner of the bracket challenge this year will get the opportunity to host a segment of the show with me here on the Fan Upstate. You will get to come on the stream. You will get to sit in for a segment. You will get to be a part of the broadcast. And, if you've ever wanted to be a radio show host, it'll be your opportunity. If you've ever wanted to do your best to make me look like an idiot on the air, as I know many of you have and do, this is your chance. Email me, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com, and I will send you an invitation link to be a part of the Rob Brown Show Bracket Challenge 2024. So, let's have some fun. Let's get to it. It is just after 7:05 in the morning, which means you are inside of an hour away from showing up to work, from responding to all of those emails that you didn't see last night. And once you get those passive-aggressive responses out of the way, once you have told the boss exactly what you are going to do today, you're going to go take a break. You're going to walk down the hall. You're going to stand around the gathering area with the coworkers. You're going to talk sports. And if you're going to do that, you're going to need this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
You hear that?
even before they take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It is the water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 stories you must know before you get to the office today and start talking sports with your coworkers. Let's jump right in with our, item number 1. A developing story out of golf. Stick with me. Jordan Spieth this past weekend, as the PGA Tour was down in Jacksonville, Florida for the TPC at Sawgrass, the 5th major, as we in the golf world like to call it. Jordan Spieth said that players on the PGA Tour board were being, quote, encouraged, end quote, to meet with Saudi Arabia's public investment fund amid ongoing talks about a merger with Live Golf. Negotiations are continuing between the PGA Tour and the Saudi Public Investment Fund, hereafter known as the PIF, which funds the Live Tour. There has been a discussion about a deal between those two sides, a merger of sorts that would hopefully at least mend, if not outright repair, the chasm in the game that was caused when the Live Tour became a thing. There was a merger in the works. There was a deadline towards the end of 2023 that needed to be reached if a deal was going to happen. That deadline hath come and gone. There was no deal. There was no merger. And here we are. Spieth said, quote, "We are being encouraged to potentially meet with them," end quote. That was in response to a question about a report in Golf Week that the tour's player directors were set to follow Commissioner Jay Monahan in meeting with PIF Governor Yasir Al-Rumayyan, who is also Newcastle United's chairman. Spieth is one of 6 players on the PGA Tour board of directors, along with Patrick Cantlay, Adam Scott, Webb Simpson, Peter Manotti, and Eldrick Tiger Woods. Asked about when a meeting might happen, the former world number 1 added, quote, "I'm not sure that I can say much more other than we're being encouraged to potentially meet with them, but at the same time, we probably feel like our membership should know timings and what could happen." There's not a whole lot more I can say about that, but we are being encouraged. I think it is probably a good thing that the entire board should meet if there's going to be any potential for a negotiation. Now that, my dudes and dudettes, that is not the story. It is not that Jordan Spieth said that the PGA Tour player directors were being asked to talk to the PIF governor. It is that Tiger Woods is doing it right now as we speak. Eldrick Tiger Woods was spotted in the Bahamas yesterday for what was the first in-person meeting with aforementioned PIF Governor Yasir Al-Rumayyan. According to Golf Channel's Todd Lewis, Woods was one of several player directors who joined PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan down at Albany, the Tony community in New Providence, the Bahamas. Flight tracking accounts also placed Woods' jet in the Bahamas, as well as planes registered to the PIF, to the PGA Tour, and Strategic Sports Group member John Henry of the Fenway Sports Group. Yasir landed at 5:22 p.m. in the Bahamas. About 30 minutes later, Eldrick Tiger Woods' diving vessel Solitude went out for about 90 minutes, a little round trip cruise. Both sides, the tour and the PIF, are keeping their discussions and negotiations close to the vest for right now, but it is pretty obvious at this point that meetings are indeed happening. Patrick Cantlay, a player director, confirmed the meeting with the PIF governor, though Cantlay said that he didn't imagine, quote, anything substantive, end quote, coming from yesterday's, quote, meet and greet, end quote. Cantlay said, quote, I'm going into the first meeting with the idea of listening a lot more than talking. I'm excited to hear all I'll learn, end quote. Yesterday evening, Monahan updated PGA Tour members via memo saying he and all 6 player directors, Woods, Cantlay, Webb Simpson, Adam Scott, Jordan Spieth, and Peter Malnati, did indeed visit with Al-Rumayyan, and that, quote, the conversation throughout was constructive and represents an important part of our due diligence process in selecting potential investors for PGA Tour enterprises, end quote. That's really interesting. It's a really interesting way to phrase that in the press conference, for him to say and call the PIF, quote, potential investors is basically, you guys know I'm a words guy. Words have meaning. People use words in certain ways for certain reasons. To me, him saying potential PGA Tour enterprises investors is him trying to control the narrative. That is Jay Monahan trying to create the narrative that this is all about the tour. This isn't about the Saudis. This isn't about the Live Tour. This is all about putting the PGA Tour in the best possible spot, putting the PGA Tour in the best possible light. Moving forward, this is all about making it feel as if it is the PGA Tour that is in charge and not responding to the Live Tour, but controlling the narrative. For the record, I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all. And I don't believe that at all because to me, if that was the way this was going, if the PGA Tour was ultimately in charge of these conversations, I don't think this conversation, again, maybe I'm being speculative at best. I will acknowledge that. I don't think this meeting's happening in the Bahamas, right? I don't think this meeting's happening in the Bahamas. I think this meeting is happening somewhere in the U.S. I think it's happening somewhere on a golf course like Sawgrass or Pebble Beach or, I don't know, Augusta National. You invite that guy down. You lay the schmooze down. If he's an investor, not the other way around. And it feels like this is the other way around. So we'll see what, if anything, comes out of this. But Tiger Woods and the rest of the player directors are currently down in the Bahamas and currently going through a, quote, meet and greet with the PIF. Let us get to item number 2. I find this one very compelling. It is a Kansas City Chiefs story, but it is also a story that all of us that are fans of the National Football League ought pay attention to. There was yesterday a threat levied down by an NFL team. During last week's free agency trade move, whatever, during that period of chaos where we were all going bananas, Chiefs president Mark Donovan had some comments. Now, the comments were directed at local politicians and the Kansas City public. The Kansas City public has an opportunity to vote on keeping a sales tax in place that the Chiefs would like to see the community use to renovate Arrowhead Stadium. Donovan told Kevin Holmes of KSHB.com that, quote, "It's really simple. These are not new taxes, and you keep both teams." Both teams, whatever does he mean? Don't worry. That's why we do the water cooler cheat sheet. The Chiefs president is, as we speak, threatening the fine folks of Kansas City, Missouri, with the potential for both the Chefs and the Royals to leave Kansas City if this sales tax that they want to use in order to fund renovations and upgrades to both stadiums, they're saying they could lose both teams. The Chiefs have already mobilized, enlisting players and Andy Reid to contribute to a video aimed at getting people to approve the sales tax. If that vote fails, Donovan said, quote, "I know that for us, we'd have to look at all of our options." He was asked by Kevin Holmes of KSHB.com, would one of those options be leaving Kansas City? Donovan said, quote, "I think they'd have to include leaving Kansas City, but our goal here is that we want to stay here." End quote. Now, this is very, very interesting because, over the years, it has not been all that wild to see teams, to hear teams start threatening to leave, to move, to go elsewhere if they don't get, effectively, free money from their local community. But the Chiefs, of all the teams in the NFL, it has always kind of felt like the Chiefs were one of those teams that would never do this, right? They're Kansas City. They're like Green Bay. They're like Dallas. Those teams can't move, right? And now Kansas City is looking that community in the face and saying, yeah, no, we can and we will. And it's up to you guys. Give us free money. Ignore our billionaire owners. Ignore our billionaires who run this program, run this team. Ignore all of them who have gotten us here and give us your money. What's interesting about this is that in years gone by, I think threats like this would have been met immediately with a local community mobilizing to make sure that they are trying to convince the community at large to approve a tax that would hand over free money to a, billionaire-owned and billionaire-run football team. But I'm wondering if we're getting to a part where some of these communities are going to start saying no. The Chicago Bears are putting $2 billion with a B dollars towards their own stadium moving forward. I promise you, it's not because they want to. It's not because they have. It is because they have to. It is because Chicago at large is not necessarily signing off on handing over billions of dollars to that NFL team. And because of that, Chicago's going to have to reach into their own pocket. I find it very interesting that the Chiefs, one of those teams that just is that community, would not only threaten to leave just like that, but on top of that, would actually put the name of the Royals in their mouth in the process, right? Would not only threaten to leave KC, but would also say, not only will we go, but this other pro team that you guys love so much, this other pro team that is a heartbeat of Kansas City, they'll leave too. That is wild to me. And finally, let's get on to item number 3. This one I put in because I find it interesting. You guys remember a couple of weeks ago when we did the eulogy for Sports Illustrated? They were done. They were shutting down. They went bankrupt. Sports Illustrated, we said goodbye. A outlet, an organization, a medium. All right, that's enough of that. That we and by we, I mean all of us grew up on. Sports Illustrated has been coming out for like 70 years, right? They said goodbye. They were going bankrupt. They were going under. They were done. They were shutting down operations. Well, maybe not, friends. The next chapter in Sports Illustrated saga will be written by management at Minute Media, which recently acquired the digital and print licensing rights to continue publishing the magazine. The tie-up will run for up to 10 years with an option to extend for up to 20 more, according to the New York Times. Now, financial terms of the deal have not yet been announced. Who the hell is Minute Media, Rob? Minute Media is an organization that has recently put out a valuation on their company of over $1 billion. They publish Fansided. They publish 90 Minutes. They publish Mental Floss, and they publish the Players Tribune. Now, Mental Floss, kind of clickbaity, 90 Minutes, soccer outlet, not a lot of you know. Fansided is a very interesting outlet. It is an outlet that is predominantly a publishing outlet, but it is generated by fans more than insiders per se. But the Players Tribune over the last couple of years has really started to take off. The Players Tribune has really become an interesting outlet. They started by having guys like Alex Rodriguez and LeBron James that were publishing pieces on this platform, and it started grabbing a lot of attention. And now all of the sudden, Minute Media has become a $1 billion company if their valuation is legitimate. Fansided used to be an outlet that was published, produced, and put out by Meredith Corporation. Meredith was the same company that owned SI at the time. Minute Media has focused on short-form multimedia content, but they say their goal now is to honor SI's legacy strategy of in-depth coverage as well, including keeping a print edition going. So maybe, just maybe, our beloved Sports Illustrated shall return. Let's run to a break. When we come back here in a minute, it's tournament time, baby. Let's take a look at, yesterday I spent some time breaking down the bracket. And one of the things that I would like to get to, one of the things that I would like to talk about is some of the things that I picked out from a gambling perspective. On Thursdays, I go on BetMGM Tonight every week, and we talk sports gambling. We'll do the same with basketball this week. So I started jumping in last night, and I picked up some trends, some patterns about different first-round teams that I find interesting. And it led me to eliminate 4 blue blood teams that I do not think can win the championship. I'll tell you who they are when we come back. I am Rob Brown. My guy Brandon on the 1s and 2s. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show. We're back after this on the Fan Upstate.
Offsides with Mark Ryan and Diesel. How long do you allow yourself to stay after your team loses? Who has fleeced their team more?
All right, guys, give me 30 seconds. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right, y'all. We are back. Thanks for hanging in there, dudes and dudettes.
Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. Call QC Kinetics, 864-448-3772. That's 864-448-3772. 864-448-3772.
In this market, you'll find Fisher Investments is different than other money managers.
Different how? Aren't we all just looking for the hottest stocks?
Nope, we use diversified strategies to position our clients' portfolios for their long-term goals.
You don't just provide cookie cutter portfolios,
No, we tailor our clients' portfolios to their goals and needs.
but you still sell investments that generate high commissions for you, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We're a fiduciary, the highest standard of care for a financial advisor. It means we're obligated to act in our clients' best interest.
So when do you make more money? Only when your clients make more money?
Yep, we have one transparent management fee structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Sounds like you really look out for your clients.
We do, because our priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. That might be why most of our clients come from other.
Dude, what a match last night, Zach.
Investments.com to find out.
That was one of the better ones they've put on in a while. I enjoyed that match.
Hi, this is Mark Ryan with Offside. We'll be live tomorrow from 3 to 7 at Angels Markets at 8004 Warren H. Abernathy Highway in Spartanburg. Stop by and say hi. We'll also be giving away a $25 Ingles gift card.
Your morning jolt of sports. It's the Rob Brown Show.
The County Sheriff's Office in Tennessee confirmed to the Post that 57-year-old Darius Rucker was booked on 3 separate charges. The Hootie and the Blowfish member was charged. What do you mean member? He's Hootie. He's bad. There is no Hootie. Was charged with 2 counts of simple possession, casual exchange of a controlled substance, and 1 count of a violation of the state's vehicle registration law. In layman's terms, Rucker was allegedly involved in a drug handoff, and a law enforcement claimed his tags were expired. I love this. He appeared emotionless in his mugshot. Yeah, I'm sure because he was like halfway between stoned and furious.
He's supposed to cry.
I mean, let him cry. If the tears fall down like rain, let her cry. You know I had to. Come on, man. It was right there. I set you up. It was right there.
That's pretty funny that you did that.
Rob Brown Show. Now morning 6 to 10 on the Fan.
You're gonna feel a puff of air.
John's Optometry has set their sights on staffing up.
Try the next line. Hey Kim, can you tell our 2 o'clock we're running 15 behind? Sorry, I'm gonna get backed up today.
He needs an optometric technician to keep an eye on it all.
Technician drops.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsor.
Where's the real Lonzo? I'm not Lonzo.
The biggest tax refund from Jackson Hewitt can lead to some spirited reactions. Jackson Hewitt, yeah. Jackson Hewitt is so sure they'll get you your biggest refund that if they don't, you get your money back plus $100.
Jackson Hewitt!
Switch to Jackson Hewitt and we'll beat what you paid last year, even if you filed online. Ain't nothing to it. Switch to Jackson Hewitt and pay less for tax prep, guaranteed. Proof of prior year payment required when filing. New clients only at participating locations through April 7th. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
It's that time of year. Cash the ticket. Jim Costa with Mike Valletti. We shift the focus from football to college hoops. Playing that system that's not a system, but sure plays like a system leading up to the tournament. We're looking for that value with the daily dimes. We look for the gross lines, getting us ready for the tournament where we're going to break down all the matchups and have an eye on some future plays too. This time of year, baby. Search Cash the Ticket on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Sponsored by Jeff Martin Auctioneers. Jeff Martin Auctioneers presents the East Coast Construction and Transportation.
All right, here we go, sir.
On Thursday, March 28th. Make your way live on site or online. JeffMartinAuctioneers.com. Experience the difference. License 4283.
All right, let's talk a little tourney, shall we? Let's talk some college basketball as we're a couple of days away from getting the opening round underway across America. Yesterday afternoon was putting together some gambling tidbits. First off, and I'm gonna do a real quick mention of the women's side. There are 68 teams in a tournament for the national championship. The South Carolina Gamecocks are one of them. My dudes, they are minus money to win the national championship. Minus money. You understand what it means to be minus money? To be an odds-on favorite in a field of 68 at a point in time where women's basketball is as good as it has ever been. That's impressive. All right. So here are your betting favorites to win the men's tournament. UConn, no surprise, is the odds-on favorite to repeat. They are 4-1. The Houston Cougars are 6-1. So are the Purdue Boilermakers. No other team is better than 12-1. Arizona is 12-1. North Carolina is 13-1. Tennessee is 15-1. Auburn is 18-1. And Iowa State is 18-1. So what are we seeing out of history? And what are we seeing out of the trends and patterns of the last couple of years that might impact your bracket? March has already been nuts. In the conference tournaments across all conferences, majors and mid-majors, 21 number one seeds lost in the tournament. Now, if you look at teams like Houston, Purdue, North Carolina, that really doesn't matter all that much. It does matter for Tennessee. It does matter for North Carolina to some degree. I think both Tennessee and North Carolina had their seedings impacted by their performance, maybe none more than Tennessee, who I think gave up a number one seed to North Carolina by losing in the conference tournament. But the upsets in the one bid leagues knocked out some of the teams that might have had a better chance at an upset over a big-time opponent like UC Irvine out of the Big West. What does that do? It sets up a situation where you probably have fewer first-round upsets over the big teams than you might normally. Because ordinarily, you're going to get some of those mid-major conference champions that are going to jump up and shock you. A lot of those guys are gone this year. Let's talk about Tennessee for just a second. Tennessee enters this tournament as a 2 seed, but they do have one big interesting factor working against them. The Volunteers did not make the semifinals of their conference tournament. Every single champion since the NCAA tournament expanded back in 1985 at least made their conference tournament semifinal. And all but 4 finalists made the semis as well. So since 1985, that is 39 tournaments. Well, 38. This will be the 39th. I know that because that's the year I was born, and I'm old now. So a very old tournament.
Oh, stop. I'm a year older than you then. Come on now.
Whatever you say, Grandpa. Every single champion since the NCAA tournament expanded in 85 made at least their conference tournament semifinal, and all but 4 of them. Think about that. 38 tournaments where there are 2 finalists. Okay? All but 4 of them made the semis as well. I like Tennessee a lot. It's real hard to pick Tennessee. Tennessee going into this tournament was a team that I was heavy on. That win over South Carolina, when Dalton Connect just kind of took over that game, those wins down the stretch for Tennessee, it kind of got to a spot for me that it was real hard to pick against Tennessee. And when the brackets came out, immediately my eye went, where is Big Orange? Where is Big Orange? But you got a couple of problems. Number one, historically, Rick Barnes has not been a great tournament coach historically. Number two, Tennessee would have to buck a trend that in the history of the 64-team tournament, only 4 other teams have been able to buck. There's something to be said about that. All the warning signs point against Tennessee. 4 games on the board have a higher seed as the favorite. We talked about one of them already. Clemson, a 6.5 at the open. New Mexico is now a 2.5-point favorite over Clemson. Since 2007, there have been only 7 instances in which an 11 seed is favored over a number 6 seed. In the 7 previous instances of that, the number 11 seed has covered and won outright 6 out of 7 times. Historically speaking, and by historical, I mean dating back since, again, 2007, which is in the post-COVID time, ancient history. If you are an 11 seed favored over a 6 seed, you win way more than you lose. 6-1 are 11 seeds over 6 seeds.
Did you see what Jay Billis has at pick, though, with Clemson and New Mexico? He thinks New Mexico handles Clemson outright.
A lot of people do.
I agree with it, too, because Clemson hasn't shown me the oomph factor that says they are going to advance. You know, we've talked about it constantly here with our show. We talked about it with Mark's show. It has been on ESPN left and right, up and down, any direction possible. Clemson has not been the consistent, oh my goodness factor all year. You had that great stretch in the beginning, then you went to the toilet bowl. The great stretch again, finish with the toilet bowl. You get blown out against a Boston College team who, let's face it, bottom feeder. And then I'm honestly surprised Clemson even got in. And Jay Billis even said they should have got in.
All right. I love you, dog. What do you mean you're surprised they got in?
They haven't shown me that they should have gotten into the tournament.
All right. I'm gonna fight you on that one.
Okay.
I'm gonna fight you on that one because they had a win over Alabama. They had a win over South Carolina. They had a win over who else? North Carolina. They had a win over NC State, who won the ACC. This team was locked in 3 weeks ago. Yes, this team absolutely should have been in. Now you can argue that down the stretch with a loss to Notre Dame,
they lost to Georgia Tech, though, of all
so
teams.
did North Carolina. That's a one.
But North
seed.
Carolina has proven themselves. Clemson hasn't.
All right, so Clemson goes in with a 21-11 record. North Carolina goes in with a what? North Carolina's record ended up being 27-7. So Clemson had 4 more losses than a 1 seed, a 1 seed that they beat at their house. Mm-hmm. They also beat Alabama, a higher seed. This team absolutely deserved to be in. The only argument you can make.
What about the loss to Notre Dame, too?
The loss to Notre Dame.
Notre Dame was a bottom feeder.
I don't disagree. It was a bad loss. I said it at the time. It was a bad loss. But you went to Notre Dame, which is, even when they're bad, a notoriously difficult place to play. You were already locked in at that point. They had a win over Pitt. That was a team that, frankly, I think should be in the tournament. You dominated FSU like you should have. You got your win back against Georgia Tech. You beat them by damn near 30, right? You lost to NC State, but you lost by a point.
What about the loss to Wake?
You beat Wake Forest lost 1 game at home. They were 16-1 at home.
They should have been in the tournament then, too.
I'm not disagreeing. Steve Forbes is a dude. By the way, very good chance Steve Forbes gets a promotion from Wake Forest. Yes, I agree. I am going to go ahead and say no conference got snubbed more than the ACC.
Now, also, what about UAB? They barely beat UAB. They won 77-76. It's UAB.
You mean tournament team UAB?
UAB is not the best team, though.
I'm not saying they are. That was also game number 2 of the season.
Still struggle.
I respect it. I respect you filling in for Lonzo on the Clemson hate train today. All right. Somebody's got to pick up the slack while the great one's on vacation, and it's not going to be me. So I'm glad it's on you. This team absolutely deserved to be in the tournament. This team had a whale of a year in a very good ACC. An ACC that, to me, did indeed get snubbed with only 5 teams getting in. I could have justified 7. I could have reached for 8. Pitt should have been in. Wake should have been in. Yes, there are some teams that got left out, shouldn't have got in. That being said, I have only one question. The question is, was Clemson taking their ACC tournament run for granted? That's it. I think, like I said, I'm giving them the silver lining.
They're like, at that, we're good. That's all you were saying. They should have shown they wanted more than just, all right, we're here.
Listen, again, I respect and appreciate you picking up Lonzo's slack as the czar of idealism, in which everybody gives 110% every time at everything they do. But that's not the real world. That's not how it works. Even those of us who love our job, who will bust our ass for our job, have days where we show up and we don't give our top because of whatever reason. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson was in like 6 weeks before the not 6, but like 3 weeks before the ACC tournament began. I don't think they were going to, nor did they need to take that tournament seriously. And I think because of that, they came in with a dead mentality. Now, the only question is, can Brad Brownell get their heads right before they take on New Mexico? Because if this team comes into this game against the Lobos with anything different than the same attitude and grit that they showed when they went to Raleigh and got a win over UMC, if they show anything other than that same grit that they showed to lock themselves in 2 weeks ago, then yes, New Mexico is going to win this game. But right now, I'm having a hard time picking against Clemson. I've got to believe that with his back to the wall, and yes, whether we like it or not, his job on the line, this team's not going to come out flat. The other games in which the higher seed are favored on the opening line, number 8 Mississippi State is a 1.5-point dog to number 9 Michigan State, but that's an 8-9 matchup, no surprise. Number 7 Dayton versus number 10 Nevada, who is a 1.5-point favorite, and number 8 Utah State, a 3.5-point dog to TCU. Some other notes that I found yesterday. The Auburn Tigers, to me, underseeded.
Yeah.
Okay, we got my man
Absolutely. That's my
Kevin
cousin.
showing up in the stream saying Auburn Tiger in the house, SEC champs, let's go dancing. In previous years, teams that were ranked higher in KenPom than their NCAA tournament seed have made deep runs. He points out 2021 Houston, 2018 Loyola Chicago, both teams that had lower tournament seeds than they had KenPom rankings. Auburn is ranked 4th in KenPom, which is one of the analytics that people lean on, yet they got just a 4 seed in the East region, which puts them down at, 32nd in terms of the overall seeding. The major issue Auburn faces is it's in the same region as UConn, the best team in college basketball, but the KenPom seed discrepancy for Auburn is worth noting, as many other teams who have had a KenPom rating dramatically lower than their seeding have gone on deep runs. For instance, a few other teams that seeded too low based on their KenPom ranking, Duke, who has a number 8 KenPom but is a 4 seed, BYU, a 16th in the KenPom but is number 6, Michigan State, 18th but ranked 8, and New Mexico, 23rd but ranked 11th, Colorado, 26th but ranked number 10. For what it's worth, KenPom is North Carolina ranked 9th, but the selection committee gave the Heels one of the 4 number 1 seeds. It is also one of the reasons I think North Carolina is going to be a bracket buster for a lot of teams this year. You all will not see my bracket until game number 1 tips off. I'll give you my final 4, but you're not going to see my old bracket. Suffice to say, the Tar Heels are not in my final 4 as of today, and it's for that reason. For all the things that Brandon said about Clemson a minute ago, I could make a lot of the exact same arguments for North Carolina, a team that got upset by an NC State team that is not better than them.
I think Auburn, honestly, and Tennessee should switch. I think Auburn should have gotten the number 2 seed. Tennessee should have gotten the 4. Yes, Tennessee finished number 1 in the regular season. Auburn won the entire tournament, though, and Auburn dominated at the end of the season. Pretty much the entire season, though, Auburn was the overall favorite. I think Auburn should have been a 2 seed.
Time for my hot take. Conference tournaments don't mean a damn thing. Okay? They don't mean anything. Unless you are fighting for a seed, like Tennessee was, and they blew it, but at the same time, they were locked in. They were locked into a high seed. They were locked in at no worse than a 2 seed. Do not put stock into a tournament. This is the same reason I have said I love March Madness. We all love March Madness. March Madness is a terrible way to crown an NCAA champion. All right? It just is. It's a terrible way to crown a champion because weird things happen in long tournaments. They just do. You line up Tennessee and Mississippi State 50 times, Tennessee's winning 48 of them. All right? It just is what it is. So, Tennessee, to me, if I played Tennessee and Auburn, Tennessee wins 6 out of 10. Auburn's real good. I'm not fighting that. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and shock you now. Auburn might make a showing in the Rob Brown bracket when it gets released. And if you want to see it, and if you want to be in the Rob Brown Show Bracket Challenge of 2024, email me rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. Just request an invite. I will pop you back an email invitation to the Rob Brown Show Tournament Challenge, and you can enter your bracket against the rest of the Armada and see how you do. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll look at some more college basketball thoughts as we head towards tournament time on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Good segment, man. Dude, why can't we do this all the time? I love interacting with you. You know what to do, bro. Keep it up, all right, Rob? I like it, man. Don't leave me hanging.
Acknowledge me.
My cousin is Kevin.
I figured when you said it.
He's a diehard Auburn boy.
Guys, I'm going to go grab a water out of the office. We'll be right back. We're back. Thanks for hanging in there, y'all. I would love to see Auburn UConn. I think that'd be a fun game.
These 5 games are all back-to-back. No bye. Georgia at Texas. LSU. Ole Miss at Florida State. Good night now. Are you familiar with the Middle Ages torture device called an
I feel so bad for Yale.
For who?
Yale.
Oh.
I think they lose by 30.
Welcome to tournament time, baby. I want to buy a Brown University jersey.
Do they even have those?
Yeah.
For sale?
Yeah. Oh, I actually want a Brown University hockey jersey. It's got a B and it just says Brown across the front. How fitting. I was going to buy one of their football jerseys, but their football jerseys, unless they're going to renovate them. Oh, they do say Brown across the front.
We're coming back. 20 seconds.
Realtors have the expertise to help you find the right price and navigate the process to sell your home in a way that's right for you. That's who we are. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors.
Yep, Zach, we talked about that earlier in the show, pal. The Rob Brown Show continues. It is the Fan Upstate, talking college basketball, getting you ready for the tournament. and filling out your brackets, which
You should hear what my wife is saying about you saying tournament. You're saying tournament, and she's saying, can he say tournament any better?
what are the first 4 letters of that?
It's
of that?
tournament, not tournament.
It's tournament.
Tournament is for people who are in the north. You in the
Yes,
north.
as we all know, we all watched the Tour de France. And,
It's
and
tour.
you know, Aerosmith's going on tour next year. I'm very excited. I'm very excited because Thursday night I'm going to see Cirque du Soleil at the Well. They're on tour. It's tournament.
Tournament. The way you say that is tournament.
No, I'm not. It's tournament. Tournament.
Tournament.
It's not tournament. I bet you also say nuclear. It's not nuclear. It's nuclear.
I can't even talk. I'm laughing so hard.
And it's not tournament. It's tournament.
Nuclear.
The first 4 letters are tour. T-O-U-R. I bet you also say GIF instead of GIF.
No, I say GIF.
Good. I'm trying to make
GIF
you
is a peanut butter.
correct. Since 2002, 19 of 21 NCAA tournament champions ranked in both the top 25 of offensive and defensive efficiency on KenPom.com. The 2 outliers, 2014 UConn, which is the outlier NCAA champion to practically every exercise like this. They were 57th in offense. And 2022 Baylor, which was 44th in defense. There are 12 teams that have a top 40 offense and top 40 defense going into this NCAA tournament. Here they are: Houston, Tennessee, Duke, Auburn, North Carolina, Arizona, UConn, Marquette, Purdue, Creighton, Nebraska, and Nevada. No offense to Nebraska or Nevada, but it would be a massive shock if they won a national title, as Nebraska is an 8 seed, Nevada is a 10 seed, and no team seeded 8 or higher has won a national championship since Villanova, which means there are, according to history of the tournament, there are 10 potential championship winners. Houston, Tennessee, Duke, Auburn, North Carolina, Arizona, UConn, Marquette, Purdue, and Creighton. Those are the teams. If you stack them up in terms of odds, it gets interesting because in those odds, UConn, Houston, Purdue, Arizona, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Auburn are the first 7. You got to go actually down a couple before you get to Marquette at 25-1, Duke at 30-1, and Creighton at 30-1, and wedged in the middle there are Iowa State and Kentucky at 18-1 and 25-1, respectively. Of the 10 contenders, only 3 are outside of the top 2 seeds. Creighton is number 3. Auburn and Duke are both 4 seeds. The only top 2 seed not on the list is Iowa State. However, their Cyclones offense is ranked 55th, putting them outside the cut line of those stats that we have been paying attention to. We talked about Auburn for a minute. Auburn is very interesting. They are number 4 overall in KenPom, which means they were underseeded. We talked about that in the last segment. They won the SEC tournament on Sunday. They aren't just top 40 in offensive and defensive efficiency. They're top 10 in both. They are 10th in offensive efficiency, 4th in defensive, which means the odds makers have it right. The Tigers have shorter odds than any other number 4 seed, but at 18-1, pretty good for a team that hits most of the boxes. Here's another one. In Yahoo Sports Bracket Madness, only 1.58% of players have selected Auburn to win the national championship. That is the 13th most popular team in the bracket, but the lowest of anybody ranked a 4 seed or higher. In most NCAA tournament championship bracket selection contests, that was a lot of words. The most important thing is to get the champion correct. So that's why we're going through these numbers. Of the last 14 champions, 12 of them ranked at least 9th in either offensive or defensive efficiency. We mentioned 2014 UConn and 2011 UConn. Those are the 2 exceptions. That knocks out Creighton and Marquette and brings us down to 8 possible contenders. UConn, the most popular pick in all brackets, over 32% of brackets picking the favorite Huskies to win it all. Houston, second on that list, all the way down at 12%. UConn is the best team and the number one overall seed after losing just one game since December 20th. It's hard to pick against them. The most skeptical number one seed, Purdue, fewer than 10% of Yahoo Bracket Madness pickers have Purdue winning it all. They are at 9.9% behind all of the other number one seeds. Why? Because Purdue has some horrible tournament losses recently. Remember, last year, they lost to number 16 seed Farley Dickinson. They have also the best player in the sport, Zach Edey, and they meet all the other historical criteria for a national champion. But history says no to Purdue because they keep finding new and creative ways to blow it in the tournament. So 8 potential champions if you trust history in these numbers. Texture says, I would just say to Rob, Rob pronounced Nevada 2 different ways back to back, but argues how tournament is pronounced. All right, it's Nevada, just so we're clear.
Nevada.
It's Nevada. And I know that because one of my best friends in the world is from Nevada, and she has repeatedly corrected me that is Nevada. I spent probably 34 years of my life saying Nevada, and then I was told by someone from Nevada that it's Nevada, and in Nevada, they say it Nevada. It's Las Vegas, Nevada. It's Reno, Nevada. It's just I did it 34 years of saying Nevada, but it's Nevada, and it's tournament. Don't fight me on this. It is what it is. All right? Anyway,
I love you.
Hey, we should do a sports flash. 2 weeks ago, Dartmouth men's basketball team agreed to unionize. Yesterday, Dartmouth said they will not enter into collective bargaining agreements with the team if they do officially unionize. The school said in a statement, quote, athletes in the Ivy League are not employees and requested a review of the decision made by the National Labor Relations Board. If the decision stands, the case could end up in federal court. Alex Ovechkin needs just 52 goals to surpass Wayne Gretzky for the most goals scored in NHL history and has picked up the pace after scoring 3 in his last 2. The most recent pushed him past the 20-goal mark this season, tying him for second most consecutive 20-goal seasons with 19. His second goal was his 128th game winner, moving him 7 game winners behind all-time leader Jaromir Jagr. Ovechkin will play his 1,411th game on March 20th, 77 fewer than Wayne Gretzky. And Kalen DeBoer just signed an 8-year contract with the University of Alabama, paying him over $10 million per year for the next 8 years. That is your Sports Flash. We're back after this with the Rob Brown Show.
Good grief, 2 minutes. What?
This one's 2 minutes?
Yes.
No. Add some. You can go copy some old stuff.
That's what I'm gonna do. That's ridiculous. Let's see. We're gonna copy that one.
All right, guys. Take a quick top of the hour break. We'll be right back. right, y'all. We back. Thanks for hanging in there. You're all spectacular people. P digits, Steven. Now, if you're British, it's tournament. No, it's not.
Steve.
We tailor our clients' portfolios to their goals and needs.
But you still sell investments that generate high commissions for you, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We're a fiduciary, the highest standard of care for a financial advisor. It means we're obligated to act in our clients' best interest.
So when do you make more money? Only when your clients make more money?
So, just so you know, my cousin Kevin is a New Orleans Saints fan. He's diehard.
We do, because our priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. That might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money.
Hey, you had a lot of people in the stream asking about the your NCAA tournament challenge.
Yeah. All right. If you guys are on the stream and you want an invite to the tournament challenge, drop me a email at rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. If you shoot me an email to rob.brown@thefanupstate.com, I will send you back a link with the invitation to join.
Just like that, State Farm is there to help you file your claim right on the State Farm mobile app. So just remember, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
State Farm, Bloomington, Illinois. Without the ones like you who work tirelessly.
All right, we're about to come back. 20 seconds. You see, I had to add those in there. Otherwise, we would have been back 3.5 minutes ago.
Real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call clickgranger.com or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
WFPCHD3 Greenbelt, the official voice of you, the Upstate fan.
Oh, look, they're showing a Hawks dunk of the year.
You're on official Rob Brown lockdown.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Over Austin Reeves.
Well, my favorite text of the day just came in from a texter who said, and I quote, "Hey, you wanker, it's tournament." That's the greatest text, maybe in the history of the show. Maybe in the history of the show. And, you know, I've been going back and forth on this about whether or not I was going to bring this up or not. And I've decided that I'm going to. My guy, Shane Barrett. Shane-O just hit me in the DMs a minute ago during the break. And he sent me a text that may change my tournament bracket. Now, I'm just going to read the bottom half of the message that he sent me. And I will let you decide if you can pick up on the direction this is going. And I'm going to tell you, without a doubt, that this is the most juvenile thing that I have maybe ever said on this show. And the list of contenders for that is very strong. In 2021, number 15 seed Oral Roberts defeated number 2 seed Ohio State. In 2022, a 15 seed St. Peter's defeated a 2 seed Kentucky. In 2023, number 16 seed Farley Dickinson defeated number 1 Purdue. In 2024, the 1 seed Houston will face Longwood University. I don't know if you picked up on a pattern there, but if you didn't, congratulations on not living in the land of immaturity where I currently reside, okay? Because if you didn't pick up on Oral Roberts, St. Peter's, Farley Dickinson, and now Hardwood University, and get the joke out of that, then you're too grown up for this Peter Pan ass show.
Hey,
all
this
right?
is an adult show. Eyes up here, please.
This is a family show, people.
Eyes up here, please.
It's not a family show. All right. It's not a family show. You listen at your own risk. It's barely SFW, as the internet kids say. Anyway, point here is I might be picking a 16 over a 1 seed. If Hardwood University knocks off Houston, I'm gonna lose my mind. It's just, I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm sorry if my mom's listening right now. I can't not bring this up. How do you listen to the history? 3 years in a row. Oral Roberts, St. Peter's, and Farley Dickinson got dubs over a top 2 seed, and now Longwood U gets Houston.
I believe it's Fairleigh Dickinson, by the way.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. That's not the important word in that sentence.
I know what the important word is.
I'm just saying, I hope Houston goes out in the first round. It'd be the greatest tournament upset of all time. Sorry, Furman. It just is what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It is hour number 3 of the Rob Brown Show right here and only on the Fan Upstate. 844-326-3663 is the number to the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-FANFONE. If you'd like to jump on the air, you can also text us at 71307, 71307. Start that text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the air. You may shoot us a tweet at The Rob Brown Show, at The Rob Brown Show, at The Fan Upstate. If you want to get to everybody at the station, that is how you go about it. And, of course, you can email me, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. Rob, period, Rob, period, Brown, not like D-O-T. rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. And you may get at us if you want in the Rob Brown Show Tournament Bracket Challenge, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. Shoot me an email asking for the invite link. I will send it to you. If you are subscribed to last year's tournament bracket site, we have moved over to CBS Sports. So if you are still using last year's tournament link, it will not work. You will need to drop me an email at rob.brown@thefanupstate.com and use the link I send you now. You do have, 2 more days to get locked into the tournament bracket challenge and get your tournament bracket.
Technically it starts tonight. The first 4 is tonight.
Yeah. But the tournament starts on Thursday. Round 1 on Thursday. Play-ins tonight, play-ins tomorrow. Excited about it. I'm all in for it. I'll be watching them without a doubt. But the games start on Thursday. So, if you want in, shoot me an email, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com, requesting the invite link, and I will send it over to you. Let's talk Carolina Panthers here for just uno momento. Panthers may not be done making moves. They obviously went and picked up Deontay Johnson out of Pittsburgh. That's a good pickup at wide receiver, but they may not be done. Free agent wide receiver Mike Williams, former LA Charger, is currently going through a list of scheduled meetings. They includes the Jets, the Steelers, and the Panthers. He met with the Jets last night. So far, no word on an offer. We do not know if an offer was made, but the fact that it is not circulated yet means probably not. Mike Williams does have a lined up meeting with the Panthers this week as well as Pittsburgh, and the rumor is he may go back and meet with the Chargers again. You'll remember the Chargers cut Mike Williams. That is because he was worth $20 million in salary cap space. It does not preclude the Chargers from bringing Williams back at a lower price. Obviously, Mike Williams missed the majority of last year after suffering a torn ACL in week 3, had to have surgery and rehab. I am sure that these teams will want to have a full conversation and a physical with him to make sure he is good to go for week 1 before they sign him. Mike Williams, 29 years old. He is a 2-time 1,000-yard wide receiver and has averaged 15.6 yards per catch over the duration of his career. So this is all about, can my dude still get up and down the field? Listen, I like the signing of Deontay. We talked about this when it happened. I like the signing of Deontay out of Pittsburgh. Deontay's a speed guy, for sure. I still want him as wide receiver 2. I'm still looking for, and there's a lot of people who have disagreed with me, and that's fine. I am still looking for a bona fide, certified wide receiver 1. Mike Williams could be that guy. Now, that does not stop me from using one of my early 2 second-round draft picks on a wide receiver. There are still a group of guys at number 2. And again, which one? I don't know. I got a list. And it is 100% going to depend on who drops and who does not. Obviously, we know who's going to be off the board. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be off the board. Malik Neighbors is going to be off the board. Rome Odunze is going to be off the board. I suspect Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU is going to be off the board. So the question is, where does the next group of wide receivers fall? You got Adonai Mitchell out of Texas. This is a dude ranked on most boards as hovering around the number 30 overall draft pick. He is a guy that's got quickness, maybe not top 40 speed, but he's got great acceleration and good size. He is a dude that if you can, before he really gets to the next level, teach him how to elevate, teach him how to go up and attack the ball when it's in the air. He has got wide receiver 2 reality, wide receiver 1 possibility. I'm interested in him. I'm not interested in Ladd McConkey for Carolina. Not that I think Ladd McConkey is not going to be a great wide receiver. Ladd McConkey he's Adam Thielen part 2. He's Eddie Royal is who he is. He's a good wide receiver, but he's kind of that slot guy. He's kind of that dink and dunk guy. He's not a guy with long field speed, but he's very, very quick, which means those underneath routes are going to be his specialty. He is possible to be a good return game guy. I think what a lot of teams do that bites them in the rear over the years. I think what a lot of guys do that bite them in the rear over the years is they go get a guy with high-end 40 speed to be their return guy. I mean, that's good. It's great if you have it. Acceleration is more important than long field speed for a return guy. Ladd McConkey fits in that mold. So if you are drafting a guy because he can be a slot receiver and also an exceptional return guy.
He's not very big, though. He's only 6 foot 186.
I mean, again,
I can see him as a return man, though.
I'm not drafting him to be a wide receiver 1. I'm not drafting him to be a wide receiver 2. I'm drafting him to be a slot receiver. I'm drafting him to be Adam Thielen, Lance Moore, Eddie Royal. I'm drafting him to be a slot guy that, yes, I can use as a return man because he is maybe the quickest in terms of acceleration in this draft. But for that reason, he is not a dude I want to target at 33 or 39. I'll tell you who is.
I got a good name, too.
Troy Franklin out of Oregon.
You just took the words right out of my mouth.
I love this guy.
This dude is phenomenal. He is fast. He has great ability to read. I like your pick, Rob.
I put him alongside Deontay. Now, this does obligate you to make Deontay your wide receiver 1 because I do think Troy Franklin is a wide receiver 2 kind of guy. He is a vertical speed guy. He's a dude that stretches a defense vertically and allows you to work underneath. I'll tell you why Troy Franklin's the guy. It's about Troy Franklin for sure. But it's actually more about another guy. Troy Franklin makes Adam Thielen deadly. Makes Adam Thielen.
He gives Adam Thielen what he needs to do, which is he was a slot receiver the whole time. And instead of having him be his number 1, Troy could be that number 1.
No, he's
I
number
feel
2.
Could be.
He's number 2.
Would you make Thielen be number 1 still?
No, I'm making Deontay number 1. I'm making Troy Franklin number 2, and I'm running Adam Thielen at the 3. I'm running Adam Thielen out of the slot because what I'm doing is I'm throwing Deontay on one side. I'm throwing Thielen and Franklin paired up every snap on the other side, and every route that Troy Franklin runs is 10 yards or deeper. I don't care if it's 2nd and 1. He's going 10 yards or deeper. He's pulling either a cornerback or a safety with him. And I'm telling Adam Thielen, wherever somebody goes to cover Franklin on the go route, I'm saying every time sarcastically, but like not that sarcastically. Every time that you are going to send Franklin on the go, Adam Thielen, I want you to curl under. I want you to find the spot that is vacated by Troy Franklin's defender. I want you to sit down in that spot, and I want you to be Bryce Young's best friend, right? If Bryce Young is the guy he is supposed to be, and I think that he is the guy that plays a Drew Brees style game. He's going to see the defense's shape before the snap. He's going to recognize defensive movement after the snap. He's going to recognize the area of the field that's going to be vacated during the route, and he's going to understand where a guy like Adam Thielen goes. So if I can have that work, where a guy like Troy Franklin gets down the field, pulls a defender with him, and Thielen's only job. Adam Thielen might never have a set route on a play. It's like backyard football with that guy. It's Franklin, you run a 5 or a 7 or a 9 or whatever the route's going to be. Adam, your route is go where they're not. Go where they're not. If they are defending you man-to-man, run the shallow drag. If they are not, if they are in a zone, then wherever Franklin pulls a guy out of that zone to run with him, you go sit down in that spot. And BY, you find him. That's the game plan, and I think it would work.
I have a question for you. What about Keon Coleman from Florida State? He's 6'4" and 213. He is compared to the player from the Seattle Seahawks. God, what is his name?
DK Metcalf.
Yes, he's compared to him. What about him for BY? You think that would help a lot too?
I do. I think 33 and not 39 might be a little high for Keon Coleman. I think he's a guy that's probably going to go very late second round, mid to late second round. I like Keon Coleman a lot. There's probably 3 other guys that I would probably take. I think Roman Wilson out of Michigan's probably a guy that I take before Keon Coleman. What
about Leggett from South Carolina?
I like Xavier Leggett ahead of Keon Coleman. By the way, and let me give you one primary reason that I like Xavier Leggett more than Keon Coleman. It's this. Xavier got that country in him. He got that big
Hank
country
Hill.
in him. Bro, that'd have been great, man. You know who that dude's giving me the vibes of? That's Randy Moss.
You got Moss.
That's Randy Moss, dude. I love that cat. I love that guy. Listen, I knew Xavier Leggett had a country accent from the times that he was talking, during his time in South Carolina. A couple of times he got up on the post-game presser or whatever, and they did interviews. Like, I knew he had it in him, but that's next level. That's incredible. They asked him, Carolina spent a lot of time looking at you. How do you feel? It's so good. That's so good. I love this cat. Anyway, I do like Xavier Leggett a little bit ahead of Keon Coleman. I do like the kid out of Michigan, Roman Wilson, a little bit more. And I like Jermaine Burton out of Alabama, too. The only issue I have with Jermaine Burton is very similar to the issue that I have with Ladd McConkey. He's undersized. The difference is, despite being undersized, Jermaine Burton can get off of coverage better than Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey's a dude that is going to beat you by not allowing you to touch him at the line. But if you get a good press coverage guy up front, a dude that's going to get hands on a wide receiver no matter how quick he is, Ladd McConkey can kind of be, I don't want to say negated, but minimized. Jermaine Burton can fight off of coverage despite playing a similar game. So if I was going to go undersized receiver, I think Jermaine Burton's probably the guy I'd go with. But I think that Adonai Mitchell could be available. I think Troy Franklin could be available. I think Roman Wilson could be available at 33. And those are the 3 guys I want. There is one more name at wide receiver I'm interested in. He's going to be closer to a 4th round guy. Johnny Wilson out of Florida State, 6'7" and plays above the rim. Hey, BY, throw it at the top of the goalpost and let 6'7" go get it. That's a dude I would love to have down there because I think he is everything that Terrace Marshall Jr. out of LSU was supposed to be and wasn't. So there's my picks. There's my guys. All of that being said, if Mike ends up coming down from LA, all of that could change. That could change everything about who I want there and why. Let's take a break. Come back. Got a few more things I want to run through as we roll through hour 3. Rob branded in for the great one, Lonzo. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It's the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, I got a live read right here. Y'all stay right there. We'll be right back. All right, dudes and dudettes, we are back. Threw the email up on the screen there, so if you want an invite to the bracket contest, it's right there on the screen.
Today, hazy sunshine and breezy, high of 60. 9 out of 10 hiring managers are having difficulty hiring.
Do you want me to add a 60 in there again?
What's that?
You want me to add another 60?
No, we can bring
Okay.
it down now.
We have 15 seconds.
Introducing Chumba Casino, the thrilling online social casino that's free to play. Head on over to ChumbaCasino.com now to join in on the fun. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown here with you. Brandon filling in for the great one, Lonzo, today. Let's take a look at NFL free agency now that it's mostly settled down at this point. We do still have some names still out there, like we mentioned in the last segment. Mike Williams is still out there. He's got a visit with the Carolina Panthers, along with the New York Jets and the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up. Not a lot of names left, but there are a few. So let's take a look at a couple of the teams that have over and underperformed during the free agent period. I want to start with, I know this feels counterintuitive. It feels like a lot of people are going to disagree. I actually think the Chicago Bears have had a good offseason. Not only did you bring in DJ Moore, but now you've paired him up with Keenan Allen on the other side. Allen has twice as many career yards as any other receiver in Bears history. Now, it's not an extensive list. The bar's not that high for Chicago. That's been a team that has ordinarily been a very physical run offense. And there are obviously some thoughts for folks that think the Bears screwed the pooch with the Justin Fields trade. Only got a 6th rounder. As we have pointed out, Ian Rappaport tweeted earlier this week that the Bears actually had at least 4 other teams that were interested in acquiring Justin Fields, which is not unsurprising. There are a lot of people, you may count me in this number, that feel like the lack of development of Justin Fields was not the fault of Justin Fields. We saw, especially towards the end of last year, we saw flashes out of Justin Fields of, hey, maybe this guy can do it, right? Maybe he can be an NFL starter, like a good NFL starter. I'm still not sold on Matt Eberflus. A lot of people still aren't sold on Matt Eberflus. I am one of those people. We saw the flashes out of Justin Fields. The reason, according to Ian Rappaport, that Justin Fields commanded only a 6th-round pick out of Pittsburgh was less about Justin Fields and more about Justin Fields. It was less about the Bears and more about the fact that he ended up where he wanted to be. Rappaport reported that there were 4 other teams, but that Justin Fields requested of the Bears that they send him to Pittsburgh. And that drove the price down. So not a big shock there. But more importantly, the Bears got it done. They did right by Justin Fields. If the Ian Rappaport report is accurate, they did right by Justin Fields, which, as I pointed out earlier in the week, it's not even just about Justin Fields. It's also about your reputation around the league. Now, players around the NFL are going to look and go, all right, Chicago is a team that's willing to make a move at their own detriment for their guys, for players. They're a players-first organization. Whether they are or not doesn't matter. The reputation does. And that's going to help them with free agency moving forward. But they also, at this point, set themselves up for success in the future. Why? Because they can now go get their guy. Is Caleb Williams going to be the guy? Is he going to be the superstar that they hope he turns out to be? I don't know. Could they end up going somewhere else? Do they maybe believe in Jaden Daniels or Drake May more than Caleb Williams? I doubt it, but I don't know. The point is, The Bears set themselves up to go get their guy, to get a better reputation amongst the players, and to not have any sort of controversy when their guy shows up. I think the Bears had a good free agency. I think the Detroit Lions had a good free agency. The NFC North as a whole had a good free agency, mainly because the Packers had one, and I don't think the Vikings are done yet. We'll talk about them in a minute. The defending NFC North champions, I know it does feel awkward to say, had to address some salary cap space issues, and they did that. But they also made some moves. They got Amik Robertson at cornerback. They went and got Carlton Davis III out of Tampa Bay. A couple of good pickups, solidified the defensive backfield. That's where they got in trouble last year, was teams that were able to hit the long and mid-range passes on them. They also solidified the pass rush. Marcus Davenport got him up out of New Orleans. DJ Reader came on board at defensive tackle. They needed talent across the defensive line. They needed talent across the defensive backfield. They got it. They were a Super Bowl caliber team last year, and they are one of the few teams around the league that I can look at and certifiably say they got better during the free agency period. The Packers got better. Now, I will say this. I did not disagree with the decision to move on from Aaron Jones at running back. I understand it. It was all about the finances. You were going to have to give that guy a salary, but you were going to have to give that guy a salary because in the final 6-7 weeks of the season last year, Aaron Jones became a monster. But here's the deal. It is one thing to move on from Aaron Jones, a guy that I think was largely responsible for the Packers not just making the playoffs, but for the Packers going to Dallas and getting the win over the Cowboys in the opening round of the playoffs. A shocking upset. But you went and got Josh Jacobs to replace him. You got Josh Jacobs, a player who led the NFL in rushing in 2022. I mean, if you're going to move on from Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs is a pretty good way to move up. Pretty good way to move up. Packers also landed Xavier McKinney, one of the best defensive players in free agency. I like that. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers got better. Kenny Pickett moves on. Yes, had to after they brought in Russell Wilson. But you also got Justin Fields, and you got him for a 6th-round draft pick next year. And if Justin Fields was to hypothetically say, take over the QB1 spot from Russell Wilson and play 51% of the snaps, that 6th-round pick moves to a 4th-round pick. Oh, and by the way, you're playing Russell Wilson less than $2 million a year. That means you got these guys. You got a future Hall of Famer, maybe, in Russell Wilson. You got a project quarterback, but a quarterback that a lot of us have not yet given up on in Justin Fields, and you got him for damn near nothing. I'll tell you right now, is there quarterback drama in Pittsburgh? Yes. But I promise you there's a lot of teams that would rather have that quarterback controversy than none at all. I think the Chiefs got better. The Chiefs got better. L'Jarius Sneed's situation got ugly. They allowed him to go seek a trade. He has not found one yet. He is on the tag. So worst case, you get him back on the tag. The Chiefs are better with him in the lineup. But you got Chris Jones on that extension. You brought in Marquise Hollywood Brown. Listen, Hollywood's a guy that has had some dropsy issues and some consistency issues down in Arizona. But if you ask a lot of folks, the great one included, they put that on the feet, or I should say the arm, of Kyler Murray. I will tell you, if you've listened to the show, you know I don't give up on quarterbacks very easily. I don't give up on quarterbacks easily. It's a hard position to play. And I think, as with most things in life, if something is hard to do, it takes a while to figure it out. We're going to talk about that in the NASCAR world here in a minute, because there were a lot of people complaining about Bristol this weekend, a race that was honestly one of my favorites to watch in a very long time. We're going to talk about that coming up at the start of the next hour. But Marquise Hollywood Brown I think, got dragged down by Kyler Murray, not the other way around. I've given up on Kyler Murray. But you got Hollywood Brown up out of there. You add him to Patrick Mahomes' repertoire. Here's the other thing. Miami lost good players. Buffalo had to cut like half their best defensive players because of cap room. There's some question marks around the rest of the contenders, if you want to call them that, in the AFC. I don't think the Chiefs got worse. I think the Chiefs got better, and I think a lot of the teams, the Bills, the Dolphins specifically, that were the teams in line to knock them off the throne of the AFC, got worse, and I think there's something to be said there. I think the Atlanta Falcons won in free agency because of one move. It's Kirk Cousins. Now, let us be very clear. This 37,000% rides on whether or not Kirk Cousins' Achilles is good or not. My man is closer to 40 than 30. He'll be 36 years old when the season goes. I will tell you, as a current 39-year-old, it takes a lot longer to recover from things now than it did. You used to hear Rob Brown on a Friday say, and now you hear him say, I'm probably not going to drink a lot because the hangovers last longer now. Hangovers used to be like a 6-7 hour occurrence. Now they're like a 6-7 day occurrence. All right. You don't bounce back in your late 30s like you do in your late 20s. So the question mark is, can Kirk Cousins bounce back from that Achilles? I will say this, as I said to Brandon earlier in the week, I think you made a mistake on a 4-year, $180 million contract. But
the good thing is it's only guaranteed fully for 2 years and then $10 million on the third year, and they don't have to pay him $1 on the fourth year.
True, but you're also in a spot where you're locked in for a couple of years, and it's going to be real hard to find QB of the future, because you're not going to be able to pay a contract for a top-notch guy basically for 2 years, maybe 3, depending on how the structure of that contract works out. So basically, what you've done if you are Atlanta, and again, I don't have a problem with this, but what you've done if you're Atlanta is you have not made this move because this is a move for the future. You have made this move as a move for the now. You have made this move not because it's going to set Atlanta up to succeed in 2026. You have set this move up because you've looked at the rest of this division. You have gone, the rest of this division is ass. We need to make a move now. The rest of this division is bad. We're going to make a move now. And in making a move now, you've probably won the NFC South this year. You may have won it next year. I will say this. We talked about New Orleans yesterday, which I think is, if there's a team to compete with Atlanta in the South next year, New Orleans is it. They signed Chase Young yesterday. They have now got Cam on one side and Chase Young on the other, and a decent defensive tackle rotation in the middle. If Atlanta's going to have a problem this year, it's going to be the pass rush of the Saints under Dennis Allen, the only thing he does well. So we'll see. But you looked at the rest of the division. You looked at the rest of the division and said, this division sucks. Let's go all in with Kirk Cousins now. I don't think that's a bad thing. I will say this. You signed Darnell Mooney, $39 million for 3 years. Whatever you want to say about Kirk Cousins, you overpaid Darnell Mooney. Okay? You just did. 907 yards over the past 2 seasons combined. A guy that's getting you 450 yards a season, and y'all just gave him 39 for 3. You overpaid in that mark. But not a ton of receivers that were available that were going to be better than him for less than that. And again, for at least the next 2 years, you kind of hammered on your cap space by going with Kirk Cousins on a $180 million 4-year contract. I don't know how I feel about that. I do think you already had some pretty good wide receivers there. I think a lot of this is going to come down to, do you actually use Kyle Pitts the way he should be used next year? Because I don't think you have the last couple of years. I think we've seen flashes of it.
Oh, no. Like, everybody knows Arthur Smith doesn't know how to use good talent when he sees it. He'd rather go and get people like Van Jefferson who drop the ball left and right, and then you use Kyle Pitts for what he's really worth.
Will Raheem use him better than Arthur did. That's the other thing I don't love. You went and hired listen, I like Raheem Morris a lot. I like him as a dude. I like him as a coach. Your team is set up to be an offensive show. You went and hired a defensive coordinator, a coach. You did what Tampa Bay did. Tampa Bay is a 9-win football team multiple years in a row. The only reason Tampa's been to the playoffs the last 2 years is because the rest of the division stinks. That's it. It's the only reason, because Todd Bowles ain't the guy. And I'm worried, as much as I love Raheem Morris as a dude and as a coach, I'm worried you went and got a defensive guy for an offense that's tooled to the offense.
Well, we got Zach Robinson. He did a really good job at the LA Rams for a long time with regards to working with quarterbacks and the style of offense he plays. We are built for that style of offense.
We'll find out. I do think Atlanta had a good free agency period. Who had a bad one? Dallas. That's it. Dallas.
Well, they do nothing.
Dallas. I mean, I could go up with some other guys. I could say Minnesota. I don't think they're done making moves. The Chargers, that was all salary cap issues. All right, Mike Williams is gone. Keenan Allen is gone. Austin Eckler is gone. Kenneth Murray, Eric Kendricks have all left as well. The Chargers are going to take a step back, but they got Jim Harbaugh. And the Broncos. I don't think the Broncos had a bad offseason. I just think the Broncos are just bad now. All right? That team's going to be trash moving forward. They are going. I think the Broncos might be the worst team in the league next year. I think the Broncos might be worse than the Panthers next year. That's how bad that team's going to be. The Dallas Cowboys had the worst free agency period. I don't even think that's debatable, to be honest with you. They did nothing but lose guys. You lost Tyron Smith. You lost Dorrance Armstrong Jr. You lost Tony Pollard. You lost everybody. You've restructured Dak. That's the good news. But, man, what a trash off season for a team that expected to be them next year. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back here. We'll wrap up hour number 3. Coming up in hour number 4, talk a brief bit of NASCAR. You know what I think we might do? We might bring Faces and Heels back. It's been a while since we played Faces and Heels. I saw it on the rundown today. I was like, man, we haven't done Faces and Heels in a while. Maybe we do. Back after this, the Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate. Marcus Mariota did not win. Marcus Mariota doesn't win anything.
Marcus Mariota is terrible. I'm going to go to the restaurant quick. I had some time in there.
That's a good hairline joke, Keegan. I appreciate it. Yeah, Vander Esch. I hated that as well, Zach. That stung. Didn't like that at all. Wesley, we never stopped being weird, pal. That's just what we do around here.
Texas Longhorns. Baseball free agency, 2-time Cy Young Award winner Blake Snell has signed a $62 million 2-year deal with the Giants. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. Download the Odyssey app.
All right, guys, I'm going to go grab a granola bar because I'm dying. Be right back. All right, thanks for hanging in there, y'all.
All right, so this is a surprise because I think a lot of Panther fans are like, yeah, you know,
absolutely not.
Okay,
absolutely. I don't want those guys winning a Super Bowl. You can't leave us and then go win a Super Bowl. No, that's not how it works. I'm hating.
Don't hit snooze. Play the Rob Brown Show now morning 6 to 10.
The Fan Upstate.
From the Ingalls Market Studio. The Fan.
Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville. 97.1 FM Spartanburg.
Always live from the Free Odyssey app.
Do we have a bed for that? What you're talking about?
If we do it, I do, yeah.
Okay. You have it or I have it on here?
It's on there.
Okay,
Should be.
what's it called again?
Faces
Faces
and Heels.
Intro. I see it. What is that about? Like, what does it do? Sorry.
Bad timing. We take stories that people tell in an online forum where they talk about awkward situations in their life. And we discuss whether they are the good guy or the bad guy in that situation.
Oh, okay.
Do y'all want to do Faces and Heels today? We haven't done it in a while. Is anybody interested in that?
Put a 1 for yes, 2 for no.
Just say yes or no. We're not millennials. Just yes or no.
All right. 1 minute, sir.
Smash that like and subscribe button.
Bruh.
Shop your favorite brands like Tarte and Fenty Beauty by Rihanna. Plus, grab perfect hair care pairs from brands like Vectine and Olaplex. And check out new arrivals from brands like Charlotte Tilbury and Dyson. Shop the Ulta Beauty semi-annual beauty event online, in-store, or try pickup today. Now through March.
I just looked at like the NFL free agency reports. Panthers signed some guy named Yash.
Yash. Oh, yeah, I did see that.
What's his name? Yash Nijman or something like that. All right, 15 seconds.
Five-star rating on Google and Yelp and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6580. That's 800-583-6580.
Talk to
This is interesting. I was gonna go somewhere else, but I'll go here. Why not? I'm gonna read you real quick the stats of 2 quarterbacks across the National Football League. These stats are from these 2 quarterbacks' last 2 games. Last 20 games. Last 20 games. Quarterback A, 663 dropbacks. Quarterback B, 668 dropbacks. Quarterback A completing passes at a 66% completion percentage. Quarterback B, a 62% completion percentage. Quarterback A averaging 7.8 yards per attempt. Quarterback B averaging 6.8 yards per attempt. In the last 20 games, quarterback A, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Quarterback B, 26 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Quarterback A, 1,032 rushing yards. Quarterback B, 1,376 rushing yards. Quarterback A, 6 rushing touchdowns. Quarterback B, 9 rushing touchdowns. Okay, that's 20 games. Quarterback A, 663 dropbacks, a 66% completion percentage, averaging 7.8 yards per attempt, 26-8 touchdown to interception ratio, 1,032 rushing yards for 6 rushing touchdowns. Quarterback B, 668 dropbacks, 62% completion percentage for 6.8 yards per completion, yards per attempt, a 26-14 tutty to interception ratio, 1,376 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns. Quarterback A is Lamar Jackson, the league MVP, you will remember. And the overwhelming majority of the last 20 games came from a league MVP season. Quarterback B, Justin Fields. When you look at Justin Fields' last 20 games, they are not on par with Lamar Jackson, but they're real close, like real close. In fact, not just real close, but Justin Fields has outrushed Lamar Jackson by over 300 yards, which for a quarterback is a lot of yards. and has scored 3 more rushing touchdowns. Lamar's a better passer than Justin Fields, but I would also point out Lamar Jackson's been on a dramatically better team with a dramatically better coaching staff than Justin Fields. The point here is Justin Fields can ball a little bit. This is why I said earlier, I think people give up on quarterbacks in the NFL too easily. And I think one of the things that happens is when guys give up on quarterbacks too quickly, especially when those quarterbacks are young quarterbacks, I do think it can impact guys. I think it can get into their head a little bit. I think it can create a situation where you are going to have a very difficult time developing them in the future. I think you have a hard time developing them in the future because I think you have created a situation where it's hard to come back from. We've talked a lot about mindset on this show as of late, right? We talked about, for instance, the mindset with Clemson basketball earlier in the show. We've talked about how there are 2 predominant voices on this radio broadcast, both of them that sit in that chair over there, who have been absolutely dunking on Clemson basketball and their success, or in the case of those 2 guys, perceived failures. Mentality plays a lot into this for me. Mentality plays into this for me from the standpoint of when you have a perceived reality in your head, even if it is not reality. When you have a perceived reality in your head, the situation you can find yourself in is you react to that perceived mentality. I played golf a long time ago with a guy, former pro player, who gave me a piece of advice for golf that I should be better at golf than I am, but he gave me a piece of advice. He said, look, when you step up onto a tee box and you look out at the hole you're about to play, most people, what do they see? They see the sand, they see the water, they see the trees, they see the rough. He said, when you step up onto a tee box and you look out at the tee you play, if you look at the water or you look at the rough or you look at the trees or you look at the sand, subconsciously, you focus in on those things. And if you focus in on those things, everybody who's played golf has probably heard this at some point. If you haven't, Venmo me $20 for the free lesson. Most everybody who has played golf has done this before. You dial in on that thing, and how many times have you looked at the bunker and said, all right, bunker's to the right, don't hit it to the right. And then where do you hit that golf ball?
To the right. Every single time.
Like a tomahawk missile right to the bunker.
Well, they say golf is full of stress, and that's true.
So the take here is, and I've gotten this from multiple golf people. I have talked to sports psychologists in the past who have said the same thing. When you focus in on a thing, even if you are focusing in from the mentality of avoid that thing, don't do that thing, subconsciously, you're still focused in on that thing. And so even if you're actively trying to avoid it, subconsciously, you are still drawn to it, which is why if you play golf, the first thing that you should do when you step on the tee box is focus on the fairway. Recognize the shot you need to hit to land that thing dead center of the fairway, because that's what you're going to subconsciously aim towards. It is why so many people have difficulties coming back from catastrophic sports injuries. Because if you are focused in on protecting that right knee that you had that ACL surgery on, or protecting that right shoulder where you had that torn whatever in, when you focus in on that and you're saying, all right, don't zig when you should zag because that knee's popped, you're dialed in on that right knee. You're going to add emphasis to that knee because while you're trying to protect it, you're going to push more into it trying to protect it. You focus on not that, right?
It's the land of what ifs, though, with that.
It is.
Like, what if I do this? If I do that? What if I do that?
It is.
There's always that possibility that comes in your mind.
But that's what makes it dangerous, because you, again, subconsciously, this has been proven, you dial in on that thing. And when you dial in on that thing, you overload towards that thing. So with all of that being said, I think when you have a quarterback like a Justin Fields and you give him 3 years and you have an entire fan base and franchise without saying it out loud, effectively saying, you're not good enough. That's the reason we failed, which is what the Bears have said to Justin Fields. You're not good enough. That's why we failed. Even if that person has super high self-esteem, they're still going to have that in the back of their head. They're still going to be focused in on that. So I am very excited for Justin Fields because Pittsburgh just said, we think you are good enough that we're going to bring you in, even though we already have Russell Wilson on the roster. This is why I don't give up on quarterbacks. This is why I'm intrigued to see what happens, because looking at those stats from Justin Fields, the kid's got Lamar Jackson in him. Now, can somebody bring it out? You know what we can bring it out? The theme to the Sports Flash. Another pitcher off the market is last year's NL Cy Young winner Blake Snell signed a 2-year, $62 million deal with the San Francisco Giants yesterday. That includes a second-year player option. Snell joins a list of free agents for the NL West contender. That includes Korea's Jung-Ho Lee, former Atlanta Brave Jorge Soler, former Cy Young winner Robbie Ray, and All-Star Matt Chapman. It may not be easy to replace Nick Saban, but it certainly pays well to try. New Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer has agreed to an 8-year contract with the university that will pay him $10 million in the first year and escalate $250,000 every year. DeBoer's contract is 90% guaranteed, and firing without cause would trigger a payout. His salary, fourth highest in college football, behind only Dabo Swinney, Kirby Smart, and Lincoln Riley, just ahead of Steve Sarkisian and Mike Norvell. 2 weeks ago, Dartmouth men's basketball team agreed to unionize. Yesterday, Dartmouth University said they will not enter into collective bargaining with the team if they do, and that could send that case to federal court. Back after this with the final hour of the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, stepping away for just a moment. We will be right back. right, y'all, we're back. Thank you very much for hanging out. Listen, I don't play by Lonzo's rule. I play by Lonzo's rules every day. I'm a liar. And yes, I started that last story. I thought I had like 10 more seconds. I didn't. Oops.
Moxidectin, and pyrantel chewable tablets. Protects against fleas, ticks, heartworm disease, roundworms, and hookworms. All in one delicious beef-flavored soft chew. Used with caution in dogs with a history of seizures or neurologic disorders. Dogs should be tested for existing heartworm infection prior to starting your prevention. Ask your vet about NexGard Plus Chews.
Upstate. WYRD Greenville.
WORD Spartanburg.
WFBC HD3 Greenville. The official sports voice of you, the Upstate fan. CBS Sports Radio. Always live from the Philadelphia.
Man, check this out.
You're on official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents me the winner.
Yeah. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas. This is the Rob Brown Show.
And away we go, ladies and gentlemen. The fourth, the final, the best hour of the Rob Brown Show goes now. This is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back, y'all. Great to have you. I am Rob Brown. My guy Brandon filling in today for the great one Lonzo, as he is out on a well-earned vacation today. We have a lot to get to in the final hour of the show, but before we do, just wanted real quick. I had a, and this is really something that impacts me more than y'all, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I have to send out a shout out as a member of my long-term radio family passed away back in the day when I was down in Florida. I spent 2 years working for a news talk station at a very popular cluster. It was very similar to the setup that we have up here in the upstate. And when I was there on my news talk station, I worked right down the hallway from a very popular rock and roll station, 99 Rock. And on that station, doing the morning show, was a cat that some of you may actually know because he is from this area, who went by the name Gonzo. Gonzo was, as I also hosted the morning show, a guy that I spent many, many hours with. We were both in the studio at 4:30 in the morning every day. We were both sharing that early morning 6 to 9 a.m. slot. Gonzo and I got very close over the years. And when I got the job here and I moved up this way, Gonzo was one of the first phone calls that I made. He was from right down the road, just outside of Clemson, as a matter of fact, grew up in the upstate. And, you know, I called him to ask him, you know, tell me about this place. Tell me what I need to do, where I need to go, what I need to see, who I need to know, et cetera, et cetera. And he walked me through a lot about it, a lot of what I knew about this place before I moved here, before I got here, was from Gonzo. A couple of weeks ago, Gonzo got into a car accident, was driving home after a remote one day, and a bear, or is either bear or deer, I don't remember, jumped out in front of his car, and he swerved and unfortunately lost control of his car, was in the hospital for a number of weeks, and had been on the mend, and then unfortunately, for whatever reason, passed away late last week. I have nothing but sadness over that fact. This was one of the nicest human beings I ever met. This dude was just definition of good people. We fell out of contact for a while after I left that station. I did a couple of other jobs before I moved on. And yet every time that I tried to make a run back into this industry, at the couple of times that I was out of it, every time I decided I was going to make a run at doing it again, Gonzo was one of the first people that reached out and said, what can I do? What do you need? How can I help? When I was working on getting a couple of different jobs, when I was not in radio, Gonzo was the guy that would call me and say, come into the station, come into my studio. I will help you put stuff together. I will help you edit stuff together. I will make stuff work for you. This dude was, like I said, just the definition of good people. The guy was always there to cheer on anybody in his radio family that needed it. He was a guy that was there to help if you needed help. There was a long stretch of time where I'd given up on this industry, where I'd given up on doing radio, where I'd given up on being on the air, where I'd given up on broadcasting. And Gonzo was one of the people that just kept in touch, kept reaching out. Hey, man, you're good at this. Hey, man, you need to be back in this industry. We need you. The airwaves need you. When I was on the sports talk station down in Florida, Gonzo, who was notorious, I mean, as a rock and roll DJ celebrity down there, Gonzo would very frequently call into my show to talk sports. Not as Gonzo, not as the 99 Rock celebrity, not as a guy that couldn't go anywhere in that town that we lived in and not be recognized, but just as a dude, just as a sports fan, just as a dude that wanted to talk football, he would call into the show and just chat. Just a legendary dude, a guy that I am proud to have been able to call a friend. A dude that at a point in my life where, and I'm a pretty affable guy, I'm a pretty friendly guy. The number of people that I can say, and I don't mean this to sound emo or whatever, as he would laugh at me for saying, but you know, I think we all kind of hit a point in our life where, hey, people get busy. Right? Real life is real life. There's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of stuff out there that all of us are dealing with and all of us have to do. But you reach a point in your life where the real life responsibilities of the adult world weigh on you and take away from your ability to reach out to other people. And like I said, at a point in time in my life where I have questioned, you know, if I fell off the planet for a couple of days, how many people would reach out? If I fell off the planet tomorrow, if I disappeared and was gone for a couple of days, how many people would reach out? And this dude was one of them, without a doubt. So, RIP, my friend. Don't know what's on the other side, but I'll see you when we get there. Gonzo, from right here in this area, a local celebrity down in my neck of the woods. One of the reasons that I ended up back in this game is because of that guy, and he will be missed for a very, very long time. Rip, bud. We'll see you on the other side. All right. Now that I've effectively buzzkilled the show, let's get into some other stuff, shall we? He would be very mad at me for doing that, by the way. I don't care. I'm doing it anyway. Let's talk NASCAR for just a second. I know this past race was the Food City 500 at Bristol Motor Speedway. They decided this year to do away with the dirt track gimmick that they had run the last couple of years. They went back to the traditional asphalt concrete there at Bristol. And it was one of the most compelling races we have seen in a long time. When we talked about it yesterday on the show very briefly, basically giving you the positioning and the updated playoff standings, I pointed out to Brandon that one thing very interesting, at the end of this race, there were 5 cars on the lead lap. 5 cars on the lead lap at the conclusion of this race, which for a lot of races, I would have to say would make it a boring race by definition. There were 5 guys. And by the way, of those 5, one of them was probably 2 to 3 laps away from getting lapped, meaning that there were realistically 4 cars on the lead lap. And there were really only 2 that were in contention to win the race. But there is a difference between what we see at, for instance, Kansas or Texas, where you've got cars spaced out, where every couple of seconds there's another car. Versus this one. This was not a race where you had 5 cars on the lead lap, really 4, and really only 2 that were in contention because there was the one big one, and outside of the race, or outside of the one big one, the race was big. This was interesting because of why there were only 4 cars that were on the true lead lap, why there were only a couple of cars that were in contention. It was because this race was chewing up tires to the point that in the race, during the duration of the race, NASCAR made the call to allow these teams to utilize an extra set of tires. They did that because of just how rough on the tires Bristol Motor Speedway was. Chase Elliott said after the race, quote, "It was more in our hands than probably ever has been. I don't know if you want that every week, but it was really fun and refreshing. It was kind of cool that you could kill your tires if you weren't smart about it. You could make them last. I thought that was really neat. I hope we don't overreact." And I would agree. Tires were wearing down at such a rate that NASCAR allowed mid-race, something that very rarely happens, an extra set of tires. The lead changed hands during this race on track 54 times during the course of the race. A large chunk of that because of the leader managing tires and not wanting to run as fast as someone else on fresh tires. Lap times typically in the 16-second range, were as long as 18 seconds for the leaders at some part. Now, again, ordinarily, I don't want to see my regular lap times increase by upwards of 2 seconds per time around. But I like this race because for the first time in a very long time, it did not feel like it was just the drivers that had an impact on this race. And very frequently it does, right? Like very frequently, NASCAR races really do feel like they come down to the skill level of the drivers. It kind of eliminates a huge chunk of what makes NASCAR so compelling. It eliminates what makes it compelling in terms of crew chiefs having to shift up strategy. What makes NASCAR compelling in pit crews, having to turn a successful pit stop without a single mistake, because one mistake on pit road can cost you 2 seconds. 2 seconds sometimes being the margin between first and fourth place. Remember that race at Atlanta a few weeks ago? 2 seconds would have been the difference between first and ninth. You miss a tire, you miss a lug nut, you get caught speeding because you're trying to make up on lost time from a slow pit stop. At Bristol this weekend, this changed everything. I loved this race because all of the sudden, it wasn't just, as the old joke goes, who could go fast and turn left the best. It was who's deciding, you know what, we're going to give up 2 or 3 seconds on a score of laps. You know, we're going to run the next 12, 13 laps at a pace that is maybe 2 or 3 seconds slower than the regular lap pace. And we're going to do that because we want this set of tires to last a little bit longer. We want to put off our pit stop by 2 laps. And we want to put off our pit stop by 2 laps so that we can allow guys to go out there, change tires before us to get their spot back. But when it's time to make the go, we got 2 or 3 or 4 laps of fresher tires, meaning that 2 seconds that we're giving up now, we can make it up when the pressure's on in the backstretch. That race suddenly became as much about strategy as it did horsepower. It became as much about strategy as it did about driver skill, about a driver's ability. And by the way, that's the other thing that's fun about Bristol. The overwhelming majority of guys that are out there on the track, they earn their NASCAR stripes driving on short tracks. Bristol's a track that's just over half a mile long. It is the definition of a short track. And so because it's the definition of a short track, most of the guys out there are real comfortable on a track like this. Most of these guys are comfortable. So you have evenly matched drivers, by and large, not everybody. There's some guys out there nowadays that there's multiple drivers that got their start in racing on iRacing, on a computer video game. As my grandpa would say it, on one of them their video games. There's a lot of guys out there who, they started on karts and they got brought straight up to the upper 3 levels of NASCAR that maybe didn't really cut their teeth. But most of these guys cut their racing teeth on short tracks. So the driver skill level at Bristol is somewhat negated. And so when you add that to how important it is for crew chiefs and pit crews to get every decision and execute every pit stop perfectly, that's why this race was so good. Because while the race to the checkered flag was maybe not as compelling with 5, 6, 7, 8 cars all in the running when the white flag comes out, the reason there were only a few cars was because guys were having to push it right up to the edge and push that envelope right up to the edge in order to try to be competitive. And many of them saw their car slide out from underneath them. Kyle Busch being one of them, my guy. A lot of them saw that horsepower be negated because all of a sudden that tire wore out. And you slid coming out of 4 up into the wall, and now your car's ruined. Now you can't do it no more. That race was good, man. That race was fun. And as there was an article on Yahoo Sports last night that the headline was, "It's not supposed to be easy." And I think that's what made this so interesting, is for so many of NASCAR's top teams and top power players, it's gotten kind of easy. We've talked about it in college football. My biggest concern about the new contract with ESPN and the college football playoff is not the 14-team playoff. I'm good with that. It's about the discrepancy in resources between the top dogs and the also-rans. It's the fact that teams in the SEC and the ACC, scratch that, the SEC and the Big Ten are going to be getting paid like $12 million more per year than schools in the ACC and the Big 12. And schools in the ACC and the Big 12 are going to be getting paid like $10 million per year than schools in the Group of 5. And when the talent starts to separate like that, and you don't have an upper and lower division officially established, you kind of create a situation in which you're going to see the same names towards the top every year. And I think that is true to some degree in NASCAR. So I really like this race because now, even if you have all the resources on one team, it's not like you can just have a bunch of average talent and a great driver on great equipment. You had to have a team that knew how to manage that equipment, how to repair that equipment, how to build that equipment in race, how to handle the wear and tear on that equipment. It's not supposed to be easy. And this weekend at Bristol, it wasn't, which is why this weekend, if you did not watch it and you are a NASCAR fan, please go find a replay of that race and please watch it. I get it. I'm a guy who has a hard time watching sports on replay when I already know the results, already know who won and lost, already knew the final positioning, who got P1, P2, P3. Go back and watch this race. Because the beauty in this is why I love soccer, right? The beauty's not in the final score. The beauty's in the 90 minutes leading up to it. Yeah, the score might end up 2-1, but the beauty in how the team got the 2 to beat the team that got the 1, that's where the beauty of that sport is. The beauty in this race was not P1, P2, P3. It was not how many cars were on the lead lap. It was how they got there, and it was great to watch. Let's take a break. We'll come back, keep wrapping up the show. Rob, Brandon in for the great Malonzo. The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It's the Fan Upstate.
You can relive big moments from Mark Ryan, Rob Brown, Jim Rome, and more. Don't miss a beat. Just hit rewind with the Odyssey app on the Fan Upstate.
From the News Talk 98.9 WORD Weather Center, here's the Carolinas' most trusted forecast on the Fan Upstate. Sunny skies today, high of 60 degrees, and for tonight, mostly clear, low near 38. Wednesday, sunshine, high around 72, and Thursday, sunny, high of 68. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on the Fan Upstate. Currently, it's 36.
And now, Mark Ryan's Morning Sports Pin, powered by Ingles. Low prices, love the savings.
So what do we make of the draw, and how far can Clemson and South Carolina go? Can Clemson beat New Mexico, 6 seed versus 11? Yes, they can. But New Mexico is a trendy upset pick. They've got a very, very capable scorer and the freshman of the year in their conference. I think Clemson's max potential is winning one game and then they lose to Baylor. South Carolina, I could see the Gamecocks going all the way to the Elite Eight potentially. Now, Oregon is tricky in the first matchup, but South Carolina's defense, I think, is going to be the difference. Then in the second round, they get a 3 seed, but it's Creighton. Creighton has double-digit losses this year. They don't play the brand of defense that Lamont Harris's bunch does. I do not believe South Carolina can beat Tennessee, but you know who Tennessee could lose to? Texas. I could see South Carolina, if the bracket falls a certain way, making it all the way to the Elite Eight. I'm Mark Ryan.
Offsides with Mark Ryan, 3 to 7 p.m. today on the Fan Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg, and on the Odyssey app.
Ingles Markets is a proud sponsor of the Mark Ryan Sports Spin. From the playing field to the stands to your own living room, Ingles Markets has everything you need to fuel your athlete or satisfy all the hungry fans in your life. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Gabby.
Hey, Gabby. It's Jennifer Coolidge. Hi. I'm so glad I reached you at 2 a.m.
Oh, of course. Anyone with a Discover card can call and talk to a real person 24/7. Now, how can I help?
Now, I used my Discover card to buy these yellow pleather pajamas, and I'm just not sure I'm pulling them off.
24/7 U.S.-based customer service. It pays to Discover. Limitations apply. Learn more at discover.com/credit card.
I feel good.
Dad, are you singing to the cereal?
Yes, I am.
If you feel that excited about at 2 a.m. for Discover, there's something wrong with you, right?
That is a wonderful question, Trey.
Feel plenty good.
For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile, and the ones who get in early so everyone can go home on time, there's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call Grainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Gabby.
Hey, Gabby. It's Jennifer Coolidge. Hi. I'm so glad I reached you at 2 a.m.
Oh, of course. Anyone with a Discover card can call and talk to a real person 24/7. Now, how can I help?
Now, I used my Discover card to buy these yellow pleather pajamas, and I'm just not sure I'm pulling them off.
24/7 U.S.-based customer service. It pays to Discover. Limitations apply. Learn more at discover.com/credit card.
Starting March 18th for 3 days only, shop limited time doorbusters during Lowe's MVP's bonus days. Buy one Metabo HPT 15-degree roofing nailer. Get one box of Metabo HPT 1 1/4 inch collated roofing nails free, a $49.98 value. Plus, save $39 on a Little Giant A4 6-foot 300-pound step ladder. Shop these deals and more while supplies last. Lowe's knows pros. Valid 3/18 through 3/20. Selection varies by location.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether
I mean, it depends. There is the thought, Trey, that Cody beats Roman, and Rock turns on Roman to start a feud for SummerSlam, which I think is reasonably possible. I do wonder if the other option here would be that Roman goes away for a little while. Rock does his I'm the tribal chief now stuff, which you would have to have him around to keep that angle hot until Roman comes back with a face turn.
5 seconds.
Tax relief advocates. Real solutions for real people.
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the fan upstate, Rob Brown. Brandon filling in for the great Malonzo and you. We talked some NCAA shooty hoops tournament a little bit earlier in the radio broadcast. And, of course, got to ask the question, are there any Cinderellas out there? Are there any Cinderellas? Are there any glass slippers that are going to be handed out this year? Are there any spots that you think there's a big time dog that maybe makes a run that's a game or two deep? And the answer for me is yes. There's a couple of them out there. I'll give you one that jumped off the page at me. And I was real interested in this one because of their performance down the stretch in the CAA. That's the Charleston Cougars. They won a dozen games in a row to end the year. Now, were they playing North Carolina and Kansas? No. But they played some decent teams down the stretch. They won a dozen in a row on the way down. That's not necessarily what blows me off the page. There's two things going on. The Charleston Cougars are averaging 80 points a game. The Charleston Cougars are shooting a very high field goal percentage compared to most of the teams that got in. And the Charleston Cougars are up against Alabama. Alabama, 2 weeks ago, my absolute darlings, okay? I loved Alabama a couple of weeks ago. Nate Oates just got a fat contract extension, and it was because of the fact that they were 21-11. They were second place in the SEC. They got the double bye over South Carolina. But this is also a team that went up against a couple of teams down the stretch that brought it at Alabama offensively, and Alabama rolled. Okay? They beat Auburn. Let's be real clear. They beat Auburn about 3 weeks ago. Then they turned around and got blown out by Auburn 3 games later. They lost to Tennessee twice. They went 1-1 against Auburn, but the second one was an 18-point loss. They lost to Kentucky 117-95. They let Kentucky put up a $117. They lost to Tennessee. They lost to Florida. They let Florida score 105. And then, of course, they lost to Florida again in the SEC semifinals, and they let Florida score 102 in that game. Alabama's defense has been pedestrian at best down the stretch. And then there's Charleston. Charleston's shooting 40% from three on the season. 40%. 40% from three on the season. That is real good. So you've got unfamiliarity, right? By the time that they played Auburn and lost the second time, they had already played Auburn before. They played Tennessee. They had played Kentucky. They had played Florida when they took these L's. So those teams were comfortable. Not so much. They've never seen Charleston before. They've never seen the Cougs before. And the Cougs can shoot the lights out of the gymnasium and do it against an Alabama defense that has given up a lot of points, specifically from range. I'm intrigued by Charleston. 12-5. Got to have a 12-5 upset somewhere. I gave you mine the other day. Look out for the mighty McNeese Cowboys. They got Gonzaga in the Midwest region in the 12-5 matchup. Gonzaga to me. We talked about the teams earlier in the show that I think are underseeded. Auburn being one of them. I would agree with that. I think Gonzaga is overseeded, even at the 5. I think Gonzaga probably should have been like a 7 seed, to be honest with you. I don't love this Gonzaga team this year. I love McNeese State. I love McNeese State getting past Gonzaga. That is likely. I might change it. We got 2 days to submit. If you want to be a part of the Rob Brown Show 2024 Bracket Challenge, shoot me an email, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com, and I will send you an invitation to join our Bracket Challenge. I've loved McNeese State for 2 reasons. Number one, I think Gonzaga is overseeded as a 5. I think they're closer to a 7. I think they're a beatable basketball team. They're not your daddy's Gonzaga team. Second, everything McNeese State has been doing in terms of scoring the rock has worked. This team does not have a problem in scoring. This team went 30-3 on the season. They lost to a decent Western Carolina squad. They lost to, who were their other losses to? They lost to Western Carolina early in the season. I looked this up yesterday. They lost to SELSU, and they had one more, and I'm forgetting who the other loss was. But this team is scoring over 80 points per game. This team is bringing in over 36 boards a game. They are only allowing 61 points a game. Now, it is against lower-level competition. Nobody is arguing that. But that number is wildly consistent. It's been that way all season long for McNeese State. They get by Gonzaga in the 12-5 upset, which I might very well be picking them to do. Oh, by the way, their head coach, Will Wade. Will Wade, you'll remember, was the coach down at LSU. Had LSU playing the best basketball LSU's played in years, until there was a bunch of off-the-court scandal and he did some bad things and he got fired. But if you're just talking about on the court, Will Wade's a real good coach. They've got star players. They have topped the CAA in every statistical category. They can score from anywhere on the court. Gonzaga is not the Gonzaga of years gone by. In fact, frankly, I think Gonzaga got a 5 seed because of name recognition. Really, I do. So I'm intrigued by McNeese State. And oh, by the way, if McNeese State gets by Gonzaga, guess who they catch in the second round? They get the winner of Kansas-Stanford. Kansas is banged up right now. Stanford ain't that good.
It's Stanford.
Yeah.
You're saying Stanford. It's Samford. SoCon team.
That's what I said, right?
No, you said Stanford.
No, I didn't.
You did.
I don't know what you're talking about. Whatever you say, tournament. Stop it. Stop it. All right? Stop it, Lonzo. I don't need you here. I don't need you like that. They get a banged up Kansas team versus Samford. If they get by them, they are going to end up with either Utah State, TCU, Purdue, or Montana State, Grambling, whoever comes out of that top portion of the region. I'll tell you straight up, I don't believe in Purdue.
I don't either.
I don't believe
I like
in Purdue.
Zach Edey, but I don't believe in Purdue.
I like Zach Edey a lot. I also think Zach Edey got the benefit of the calls this year. Zach Edey got a lot of special treatment for being the National Player of the Year, special treatment that usually does not happen inside the tournament. You don't get it there. So McNeese State as a 12 seed, as far as I'm concerned, is absolutely a possible Elite Eight Cinderella. Now, it would be helpful to me if either Utah State or TCU, because I don't think Montana State or Grambling, although Montana State, I watched Montana State, Montana for their conference title. That was a really fun game. I don't think Montana State or Grambling is knocking off Purdue. If they can get some help from either Utah State or TCU in the second round, and somebody tosses Purdue out of the mix there, and it's theoretical that McNeese gets Kansas in the second round, and Kansas is not just banged up, but is banged up and only on a day's rest at that point, McNeese State becomes an interesting possibility to make a run deeper into the bracket to the Elite Eight, potentially down into that Final Four region, depending on who comes out of the bottom half of that bracket. I'll give you another one, and I hate this one. Honestly, I'll tell you right now, I haven't finishing my bracket yet. There's a bracket possibility where both South Carolina and Clemson are bounced in the first round. Oregon's a good team.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon's a good team at the 11 seed. A lot of folks picking Oregon. New Mexico's a good team at the 11 seed. Most people seem to be picking New Mexico to knock off Clemson. Now, again, I think people are putting a lot of stock into the game that that Clemson lost to Boston College in the ACC tournament. And I get it, man. They looked real bad in that game. But I also think there's a lot of people who don't tune into a lot of these teams until it's tournament time. And so if you only tuned into this Clemson basketball team at tournament time, and granted, I understand basketball, like everything else, is a what have you done for me lately, baby, ooh, woo, 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 woo sport. If you only tuned in for, like, let's say the last week of Clemson basketball, 2 weeks after they became a tournament lock, according to most of us that know ball, then I could see how you would look and think that the 11 New Mexico over Clemson's a trendy pick. I'm not convinced yet. In fact, I am more, as much as I am a fan of Lamont Paris, as much as I am a fan of the South Carolina basketball team, I'm more confident Clemson wins, despite being a 1.5-point dog, than I am South Carolina wins over Oregon. Because to me, if South Carolina's not hitting shots, Oregon wins the game. It's real. This is one of the games in the first round. There's a few of them, competitive games. I'm not talking UConn, Stetson. I'm saying competitive game-wise of relatively well-matched teams. There's a few that I can point out and go, this is real simple. I looked at James Madison, Wisconsin earlier. Wisconsin cleans up the glass like they did against Purdue. They're going to win that game. If they don't, James Madison will win that game. This one is one of them. If South Carolina's shooting the ball well, they're going to win this game. And if they don't, Oregon's going to snipe them. And it's a coin flip for me as to what happens. I will say this. If Oregon knocks off South Carolina in round 1, they get Creighton Akron winner in round 2. Now, as we mentioned earlier in the show, the Blue Jays meet all of the metrics that say that they are historically a contender for the NCAA championship basketball crown. They are. I think Creighton might be this year more than years gone by. They have spots that are a little inconsistent here and there. They are 23-9. They had a couple of runs of loss. They did lose to Providence, a good Providence team, a Providence team that a lot of people feel should also be in this tournament. They lost to St. John's. That was after Ricky P went off on his own team, blasted them, made them feel bad about themselves. They lost to Butler. They lost to Providence. They got smoked by UConn, only put 48 in the basket that night. If Oregon gets by South Carolina, they can get by Creighton. If they get by Creighton, the only other team down there that really scares me, I'm not really scared by Texas. I was thinking about it last night because I've been trying to kind of hype up Virginia a little bit. Tony Bennett teams have not been particularly scary in the tournament the last handful of years. So maybe not. If Oregon gets by South Carolina, Oregon, Tennessee in the Sweet 16 becomes a realistic probability. And as my friend on BetMGM tonight, Trista Crick, has been trying to warn you guys for a couple of days now, Rick Barnes' teams hilariously flame out of the, hilariously sometimes. Rick Barnes' teams frequently end up flaming out of this tournament as well. And if they do that, Oregon's run to a potentially Final Four is right there. A McNeese-Oregon Elite 8 matchup is not unreasonable That would be a wild one. That'd be a 12-11 Elite 8 matchup, and it's a possibility, man. Possibility. So there's some of my favorite Cinderellas. We'll do more of them tomorrow on the show. Remember, Thursday a.m., right after we go off the air, the first round of the tournament starts. We do have play-in games tonight and tomorrow. Thursday, right after we go off the air, we start the NCAA tournament, and you had better believe your boy's going to leave here, head to the Bro Cave, put his fat behind in the couch in front of the 75-inch, and tweet through it, bro. Cannot wait. Let's take a break. We'll come back for the final segment of the Rob Brown radio broadcast. This is the Fan Upstate.
South Carolina women's basketball ready for action this Friday, 2 o'clock Eastern. They'll take on the winner of Wednesday's Presbyterian Sacred Heart First Four game. The Gamecocks head into the game 32-0 overall. The NCAA men's basketball tournament is set in the South Regional. NC State has the 11th seed. They'll play Thursday against number 6 seed Texas Tech. Longwood has the number 16 seed. They'll battle first seed Houston on Friday. In the Midwest Regional, South Carolina has the number 6 seed. They take on 11th seed Oregon on Thursday. The North Carolina Tar Heels have the top overall seed in the West Regional. They take on the winner of today's Howard Wagner First Four game. Clemson has the 6th seed. They'll take on 11th seed.
Thank God there's at a time.
Against the number 1 overall seed.
Otherwise, we'd be coming back in a minute 15 if I didn't add in time in there. I'm like, woo. Is the heat on in here?
No, it's all the way down, actually.
I don't know. I'm starting to get like
The air
Flaming.
in this room is always wild.
yeah, it's weird. Like there's times I was coming to do Furman be like an ice chest. And then times I come in here and it's like a sauna.
If it's cold outside, it's hot in here. If it's hot outside, it's cold in here. It's just how it goes.
Yeah.
Find a store or switch Suavemente and total by Verizon.com. Monthly rate when you activate without a fee.
Good show today, man.
Discount begins the month after you enroll. Additional
You did all right.
See website for data management practices. Get the one and done you want for your dog's monthly protection. Next Guard Plus, a Fossil on her Moxie.
My Cinderellas, I have James Madison beating Wisconsin
I like James Madison.
because they were the 31-win team. My next one, Duquesne. I think they beat BYU.
I don't. But as I said yesterday, that game, like I said, there's some that are just determined by one thing going right or wrong.
Yeah.
If BYU's hitting shots, Duquesne's getting blown out. If BYU's not hitting threes, Duquesne can win.
And then the sweetheart story, Long Beach. Fire their head coach, wins the tournament. Why could they not pull off, David versus Goliath and beat Arizona?
I think they unfire him.
That'd be crazy, wouldn't it? Oops, we fired you by accident. Come on back.
If I was him, I'd be like, nah, I'll go get me a job somewhere else.
Somewhere that cares about me.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, but no thanks. I also thought about Grand Canyon over St. Mary's, just because Grand Canyon is the whack surpriser, And St. Mary's, yes, they're good, but I don't think they're great. I told Mark yesterday that I think Florida loses in the play-in against either Boise State or Colorado.
I'm intrigued by a lot of these. Mid-majors that stole conference bids.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think a lot of them end up giving basically first-round buys to top-notch teams.
There is no official difference between hills and mountains. The United Kingdom and the United States used to define hills as summits less than 1,000 feet. However, both countries abandoned the distinction in the mid-20th century.
A team I don't think deserves to be in there, Michigan State. A 19 and 14 team, and they're traditionally between a 5 and 10 seed every year. I don't agree with them being in because they lost in their quarterfinals.
They did, but they lost to Purdue, a 1 seed.
Yeah.
If you want to knock them for a loss, that loss at Indiana is a bad one.
Mm-hmm. I just don't feel confident.
I think they're probably also a team that gets in because of legacy as much as anything else.
Yes.
I'm going to say it's a mountain.
I mean, they lost. I mean, Nebraska's good. Wisconsin's good. Northwestern, they're a good school, and they lost to them. That Minnesota loss, though, that could hurt. And then the Ohio State one, that hurt them a little bit too. But I just don't see how they got in. But then teams like Indiana State, who should have gotten in, because they were ranked 24th going into the final game, and they lose their conference game. Oh, shoot. Oh, we're back. Forgot to add music to it. Sorry. My bad.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Rob Brown Show. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, Brandon filling in for the great one, Lonzo. I want to jump in here towards the end of the day. Now is the perfect opportunity. The renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. You can text us at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the show. Real quick, I threw this out there earlier in the day, and I want to circle back around to it now. We have mentioned in the Sports Flash a couple of times today that Kalen DeBoer, the new head coach at the University of Alabama, signed a contract. That contract is good for 8 years and a lot of money. Like a lot of money, over $10 million a year annually in salary. It makes him the fourth highest average salary amongst all active head coaches. He trails only Dabo Swinney at number 1, Kirby Smart at number 2, and Lincoln Riley at number 3. He checks in an annual salary just ahead of Steve Sarkisian at Texas and Mike Norvell at FSU. Then we also brought up a move being made by the University of Florida. Florida increasing their recruiting budget by 45% this year, bringing it up from $2 million to $2.89 million. They say their goal is to double the recruiting investment under Billy Napier since his arrival. This most recent adding to the recruitment fund has done just that. The UF's University Athletic Association's overall budget is $167.38 million. That is an increase of $3 million from last year. So we're a long ways off. We just got the new contract signed between ESPN and the College Football Playoff Committee. Obviously, there are a lot of decisions that have to be made between now and when that thing ends up going into effect. Obviously, there's a lot of discussion about revenue sharing and all the things we've talked about right here on this radio program. But I find this compelling. I find this interesting. Yes, I do think at this point that you can pretty much look and see the writing on the wall. You're going to see, I think, numbers similar to this coming out of other SEC schools. I think you're going to see numbers similar to this coming out of other Big Ten schools. I am not going to be shocked if between now and the new contract going into place for the 2025 season, if you don't see SEC and Big Ten teams that start dumping money into their football programs. And again, as the old saying goes, as every lady says to me, if you got it, flaunt it, Rob Brown. That's a joke. No one says that to me. Point here is, if you got it, flaunt it. And if these teams, these conferences, and these teams within these conferences have been able to strong arm the other teams in the other conferences into agreeing to a new revenue distribution model, which sees tens of extra millions of dollars going into these schools, then of course they're going to use it. Of course they're going to use it. I just think the fact that you've got schools that are jumping up their recruiting investment by 50% almost. 50% almost. Overall, I mean, how's that not the writing on the wall, right? How's that not the writing on the wall? How is that not an obvious sign that this is going to benefit the two big conferences, and it's going to benefit the two big conferences in a very obvious way? We are talking days after the new contract goes into place. Days after the new contract goes into place, already SEC schools are pumping up different aspects of their budget. Listen, like I said, the gulf, the gap, the chasm between the haves of college football and the haves not of college football, it's about to widen. It's about to spread, and it's about to spread in a big way. So we'll keep an eye on this. Kayla DeBoer gets that cash money, homie, and Florida dumping money into their recruiting fund. We'll see how it works out. All right. That's going to do it for us today, ladies and gentlemen. Coming up on tomorrow's edition of the Rob Brown Show, we go full bracket breakdown tomorrow. I'll give you my upsets. I'll give you my winners and losers. We'll get you locked in. By the way, if you want to be a part of the Rob Brown Show Tournament Challenge, now's your chance to do it. Email me, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com, and I will send you the link to join in. For Brandon, my name is Rob Brown. I appreciate you guys listening. Hope you have a lovely rest of your Tuesday. Do not drink and drive. I will punch you in the face. We'll see you back here tomorrow to do it all over again, but better on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Got out short.
Huh?
I got out short, so you may need to.
Yeah, I might add some time in there.
If EA put out college basketball and baseball games again, would you get them? I would, Trey. I don't know that I would be enthusiastic. I think the show, the MLB baseball game, is about as good as a baseball game can be done. I can't see them doing anything better. And I don't think that college baseball, as much as I love it, I've said this before and you guys have heard me, I think college baseball has the best postseason in sports, bar none. I don't think college baseball has the tradition and the atmosphere and the vibe that college football does that would make that game stand out. College basketball, I'd probably buy. I'd probably get all on board.
They used to have one a long time ago for PS2.
Yeah, I would probably get on board if they brought back a college basketball game. There's a little bit more to it than baseball, I think. And again, that's from somebody who adores college baseball. Hey, that's it, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed the show. Appreciate you coming by. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a lovely day. Goodbye.